ほら、ルフィ、今一緒に海賊になる仲間を探してるんだ。
Hello guys, welcome to my channel The Wandering Zoro, your go-to destination for anime-related content. And if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest videos. In today's video, we're going to be diving into part 5 of the series. So be sure to stick around until the end, and let's get started. Before the match starts, everyone looks excited and looks forward to the finals that are about to take place. Posters on the wall featuring Isizuku versus Katsuki were displayed on every corner of the hallway and building. People came running and took their seats in the stadium to watch the match that was about to take place. In the stadium, 5 young teenagers came running into the audience booth and saw the match that was about to take place. They came running with their slippers while trying to catch up to each other. "Oi, hurry up. The match is going to start." "Hold up, why don't you?" The rest of the group tried to catch up, but the red-haired teen already beat them to it. "It's starting. It's starting already." The red-haired teen yelled out, looking all excited. "Geez, it's not easy to run with these slippers, you know." The girl pants her breath, trying to get some air. "Come on, Misaki. We can't miss this match, you know." The teen with blonde hair covering the left side looks at Misaki, the only girl in their group. "I know that, but Kenji here has just bulldozed himself through like some kind of bull in a china shop." She points her finger at the red-haired teen in an accusing tone. "Yeah, I mean you kind of almost bumped into a kid back there at the vending store." The one who seems to be the oldest with wolfish gray hair scolds Kenji. "I said that I'm sorry." Kenji joins his hands together, making an apology gesture. "Knock it off, both of you," a voice calls out from the back, revealing a teen who appears to be the shortest among the group, around 5 feet 3 inches with black hair. "We're here to see the match, right?" The rest of the group also calms themselves while watching the match that takes place. Our brothers' match. Katsuki, who was still recovering from the punch, looked at his above, seeing the quirkless freak who just landed a punch at him, now looking down at him with that cold gaze. "Get up. You can't be satisfied that this fight ended like that." Izuku replied in a cold tone, almost in mockery. Katsuki grits his teeth in anger, hearing those words coming from the likes of Deku. Does the quirkless freak think that he's just going to roll down in the dirt while accepting his defeat from a single cheap shot? Katsuki leaps into the air, propelling himself toward the quirkless boy with an explosion-powered lunge. Izuku sees this attack and rolls forward, letting Katsuki fly over him. However, during the lunge, Katsuki angles himself so that one palm is down, and as Izuku rolled, he clipped the quirkless boy in the back, causing him to grunt in pain. "Oh, Bakugo has landed the first blow." Present Mike comments. Landing swiftly, Katsuki turns around, only to be met with a straight punch aimed at his head. He barely has a second to move his head to the side before he can avoid a backhand punch following up from the first attack. His head gets slapped from the backhand. He just got feeling how hard and heavy those palms are and able to hit him like that. Even the old hag didn't hit him that hard. "Remember that, Bakugo?" Izuku growls through grit teeth. "I do. I remember the pain you gave to me from your punch. Almost a year ago." Katsuki bares his teeth at the boy in front of him. "You think it matters whatever pathetic punch you whip out? No matter what you do or what you bring, you will never be able to make a dent in me." At the arena, Katsuki leaps into the air, propelling himself towards the quirkless boy once again like before. Izuku saw this attack and sidestepped to the side, letting the boy crash through and only stopping when he saw his opponent move out of the way. "Stop running and fight," Katsuki roared, raising his palm towards Izuku, intending to end this match. However, Izuku, with a speed that almost defied the eyesight of onlookers, dodged the blast with surprising agility. It was as if he had read Bakugo's movements before they happened. The explosion echoed, but he was no longer there. What the hell? It was the only thing that crossed Katsuki's mind the moment Izuku's foot hit his ribs with a force he didn't expect. The blow launched him several meters backward, forcing him to roll on the ground before stopping with a grunt of pain. "He's fast," he thought, trying to process what had just happened. Since when can Deku move like that? Midoriya has landed a hit. Folks, this match has turned into something interesting after all. Contest between two promising students. Confusion mixed with rage in his chest. Katsuki stood up quickly, brushing the dust off his clothes, the burning in his side fueling his frustration. The crowd roared, surprised by Izuku's swiftness, and shouts of excitement reverberated through the air. "Come on, you can do it!" The crowds cried for the match, while others simply stared in disbelief. Katsuki, feeling his pride had been hurt, clenched his fists, sweat beginning to trickle down his forehead, breathing heavily and with a mix of confusion and rage in his gaze. He quickly stood up, rubbing his sore ribs. What the hell did he do? Since when was Deku capable of fighting like this? He asked himself. Katsuki looked to his opponent while trying to find a logical explanation for Deku's speed and precision, as if he was telling him that he was no longer the same idiot he always used to know. "What did you do, Deku? How the hell did you do those things?" Katsuki yelled out, demanding some form of explanation. Izuku remained completely silent, his cold, calculating gaze fixed on Katsuki. There was not a hint of emotion on his face, as if he was watching a storm from the safety of a shelter. This disregard for provocation was beginning to irritate Katsuki, and frustration bubbled up inside him like an eruption about to explode. "Why aren't you saying anything? This isn't fun." This lack of response destabilized the dynamics of the confrontation, turning what should have been a duel of rivalry into a game of patience. Katsuki felt the energy of the fight fading away, and that made him even angrier. Every second that passed without Izuku responding increased his anger, and his desire for the fight to finally begin became an intense burning of hatred. "You quirkless trash. You looking down on me." Katsuki grits his teeth in anger and launches himself forward. He aimed his hand downward, trying to launch himself, but the explosion was nothing but a cover for Katsuki to flank him from behind and launch his explosion on his back. When Katsuki was about to launch his explosion, Izuku turned the body away at a very fast pace and thrust the back leg straight toward Katsuki's abdomen, hitting it with his heel. Katsuki is blown to the back while holding his mouth to not vomit. "That was a lowly trick, Deku, as expected from a villain who bribes himself to get here," Katsuki said. However, Izuku didn't give him any form of response and just stood looking at him with a bored expression. What got nothing to say, as expected from a weakling who only knew one move. "You're just lucky, you piece of trash. But I'm going to show you your place right beneath my boot." He continued to taunt him while licking his lips. And once again, he didn't respond. "Hey, you quirkless trash. I'm talking to you." He yelled in anger, not liking the silence or being ignored. He didn't respond and continued to give him a bored expression. "Why, you piece of trash? Are you looking down on me?" Katsuki screamed in anger while charging in his direction. He propels himself to the front while aiming both of his palms together. Looking at him with a crazed smile, stunned grenade. A blinding light covered the ground as Katsuki quickly turned to his back and pulled his fist, ready to punch him in the back packed with an explosion. And when he was about to hit him, he evaded to the side without looking to the back. "What the?" Katsuki thought. He swiftly kicked him to his side, and the force of the kick managed to push Katsuki's body to the concrete wall. His back hit the wall at the end of the arena, and he could tell the pain that coursed through his body was numbing him. But since it's a one-man standing rule, Katsuki didn't lose from ring out. Wow, another hit has landed on Katsuki Bakugo. Who knew that the boy could put up a fight like that? I thought that since Midoriya used support items during the match, he'd be incapable of throwing a punch or holding his ground. But I guess I was wrong. His fighting prowess is good. Aizawa commented in the commentary box. Plus, look at that build. He must have hit the gym twice a day, if you asked me. Present Mike commented. Katsuki wheezed, trying to catch his breath from the blow just now, noticing how strong it was. Now I remember. Izuku spoke for a long time with a realized look on his face. "They used to call you King back in Aldera." "King Bakugo." Katsuki grunts, holding onto his back while trying to get up, remembering his old nickname back in Aldera and planning to add the word king to his hero name in the future. "Right now, you're more of a lackey than a king, to be honest," Izuku said, and Katsuki looked in anger. "What did you call me?" He growled in anger. Let me make it easy for you to understand. Izuku replied with a cold gaze. You're a loser. Katsuki grits his teeth while grabbing his fist tightly so that it almost bleeds. The pain in Katsuki's ribs burned, but that wasn't what consumed him. It wasn't the physical blow that truly hurt. It was those words. Deku's voice, normally filled with insecurity or fear, had now transformed into something sharp, cutting, and almost inhuman. But Katsuki wouldn't accept it, wouldn't let a simple blow make him doubt himself. How dare he say he was better than him? Katsuki screams in his thought. How dare he enter this place freely like that, through blackmail? And he kept playing him around like he was some kind of toy while Deku tried to ruin his life? It's a joke. It was as if those words were a poison he was trying to shake off from his system. No one, absolutely no one at this festival had managed to touch him like that. Not Dunce Face with his stupid electricity, not Icy Hot Sister with her dual quirk, and not even Man Hands with her weak quirk. They had all fallen before his power. Because he believes that he's the best. Katsuki began to growl in anger, resembling a beast of some sort, and started throwing attacks blindly at him, one explosion after another, as Izuku just retreated to the back avoiding the blast, but he still got caught by it no matter how fast he avoided. Of course, this act doesn't go unnoticed by the audience as they see him acting ferociously, throwing one explosion carelessly like that. Man, that Midoriya kid sure can hold his ground. Yeah, but don't forget that Bakugo Kid is no joke. Speaking of which, did you guys think that he's acting feral or something? Like some kind of beast? I know, right? But that quirk, isn't that fire-type base, right? It has to be. Look at the ground. Doesn't it seem familiar? Katsuki relentlessly fired off one explosion after another, trying to put the quirkless freak in his place for playing with him all this time. Ruining his origin story, coming into UA through blackmail, acting all tough, looking down on him with those cold stares, sabotaging his gauntlet, sending him flowers to kill himself, exposing him with his article, tricking him into getting into trouble, humiliating him on the sports festival. Everything is Deku's fault. Katsuki roared in anger, throwing one explosion after another, wanting to wipe the smirk off his face, wanting to blast his face for ever looking down on him. He will pay and turn this arena into a horror show for him. The explosion kept hitting Izuku's body relentlessly, trying to defend himself, as he took a defensive gesture, and that only seemed to fuel Katsuki's ego more inflated than it had. Izuku stood once again, panting violently and nursing his bruised ribs from the explosion. Katsuki, too, was panting, though trying to play up his confidence as he felt that the quirkless freak had finally understood his place. If you know so much about my quirk, then you should know that the more I fight, the stronger I get. Katsuki boasted, delivering an explosion to Izuku's stomach. Izuku tumbled over. The quirkless boy tried to rise, only to be kicked in the ribs by Katsuki's knee. You should have known that dragging this out would only make this more painful for you. Another explosion, another blast, makes Izuku tumble over. But no, you need to keep coming, trying to prove you worth more than what I tell you. An explosion on Izuku's shoulder, causing him to fall to the ground. Nothing but dirt under my shoe. Katsuki throws a smack. You should have just stayed down. Then a punch. Given up. An explosion to his arm. Accept your place in this world. A kick to his chest. But no. An explosion to Izuku's ribs again. You just can't stop getting in my way. Ruining my perfect backstory, just like you always do. A massive explosion rings out, echoing across the arena. The bright phosphorescent light briefly blinds viewers as Katsuki chuckles. You can't win, Deku. Nothing you can do can take me down. There was a brief silence as Izuku dropped to his back after taking so many hits from the explosion. Just now the crowd was wincing and had to look away from the cruel scene that was folding in his eyes. But then, much to Katsuki's surprise, they heard a sound erupt from the quirkless boy's mouth. A small bark of laughter, simple and quick. But that small chuckle was followed by another, and then another. Slowly, Izuku began to laugh, truly and fully. Katsuki, Midnight, All Might, even the world, stared in disbelief as the bruised and battered boy kept laughing. Izuku rose to his feet, his laughter petering out, and he met Katsuki's eyes dead on. Where Katsuki was expecting fear or sorrow, Izuku's eyes were filled with pity, like he was still looking down on him. Honestly, I think I just realized how sad you are. Izuku's gaze never wavered from Katsuki, staring him down as Katsuki stared back. You're fighting a battle, and all you're concerned with is some fictional backstory of your life? That's really all you care about? Izuku chuckled again, though, unlike Kendo, Katsuki could discern no fear from his voice like he wasn't afraid of him. All those 10 years, you were convinced that you were a king. In your head, everyone followed you and obeyed your orders. But you couldn't be more wrong. The truth is, you're just a pathetic child who dreams of something out of reach. You're a sad, miserable existence. Katsuki grits his teeth, shaking his hand at the blatant disrespect that's thrown at him right now. He just wanted to show the quirkless freak his place in this arena. Seeing how he already beat him to submission didn't make him waver. Maybe he needs to turn up the notch. Out in anger, Katsuki propelled himself using his explosion and knee kicked him in the gut, causing Izuku to fall back onto the ground with his back lying on the floor once again after being knocked down by Katsuki. I wonder what's your endgame here, Deku. You can play with your stupid plan all you want, but as long as I'm in control, my life won't be your plaything. Katsuki stomps over to his abdomen with enough force to make it difficult for him to breathe. Izuku gasped, feeling the pressure. Seeing Deku try to catch his breath brings some satisfaction inside Katsuki's chest, like he was enjoying seeing him struggling for his life. It's almost refreshing for him. He wanted to see him beg, crying, having a look of despair on his face, realizing his place in this place as nothing but a worm who crawled over to the dirt while eating trash, waiting to get stomped by him. But much to Katsuki's surprise, Izuku just chuckled at him, even with a foot stomped on his abdomen pressing down to his lungs. He let out a wheezing laugh before making a smile, with mockery looking at him. But Kugu, no matter what you say, you'll always be my plaything. Katsuki is about to deliver another stomp at his chest again when he realizes that the match is more silent than he expected. He looked up and saw the audience had their eyes taken off the field where his match was. He looks up to see the stadium, and everyone is on their phones. Not just those nameless extras, but the extras in his class and those in the teacher's booth. Even All Might is looking at his phone and not at the match. But the one thing he noticed was that everyone had the same expression on their face, with one word. Shocked. Everyone is looking all shocked, but each of them is filled with a different kind of shock. Some are mixed with fear, others are genuinely surprised, and there are some with silence. But one thing he noticed on the front booth is that everyone is lining up with anger and disgust. Katsuki had no idea what was going on, but he could tell that all their attention had shifted from their phone and now looking at him with those same expressions they did when looking through their phone, ready to come to him with pitchforks and torches in their hands somehow. Show. Is this real? Present Mike shakingly looked at his phone, unable to believe what he was seeing. Put on the jumbotron. There's no point in hiding it right now. Aizawa replied, hiding his emotion under his shaggy, messy hair. Then, the jumbotron switched to a recording of a conversation on some rooftop. Katsuki looked up to see, not recognizing the place, until he saw two familiar figures having a conversation up there. What the hell are you doing up here? Katsuki asked. Katsuki's eyes widened in realization, remembering why this place looks familiar. It's where he confronted Deku after discussing their plan to put him down before the sports festival took place. I asked what you were doing here. He shouted. Why? Izuku frowned. Afraid I'm going to jump? Yeah, maybe you should. The view is good, and no one is here anyway. Katsuki smirks while taking a step forward. I suppose it's a good view. Sunset itself looks warm and brings calmness inside. Izuku stared at the red-colored sky, red-colored. Fit for an end to a quirkless piece of trash, such as you. Waste of air anyway. Should have pushed you off from the rooftop back when I had the chance in school. You want to push me off from the rooftop so badly? You want me to die? Yeah, your dad told us to do it anyway. So just do us all a favor and die. Then it happened. Katsuki threw an explosion straight at him, and Deku was seconds away from getting blasted from the rooftop. He could see his smirking expression when he threw off that explosion, how he enjoyed it, and it was in full view on the jumbotron of his wolfish grin for everyone to see. And this is broadcasted live on television for everyone to see. Katsuki froze, looking up at the crowd left and right. He sees cameras pointed at the arena, broadcasting the whole fight. He sees the audience, looking at the fight in disapproval. Many seemed disgusted. Others saw him as some vile creature. But the worst part is the ones in the crowd, whispering to each other. He can't hear their whispers, but his mind fills in the gaps, permeating his head with toxic words. This is the best of the hero course. He tried to push that kid off the rooftop. Did you see his face? How does he enjoy doing that? So it's true then? That kid is the rumored student K? That sociopath student who tormented those people saying to kill themselves? It's gotta be him. Look at the ground where the soot is from. It matches the burn mark on that Midoriya kid. Then Izuku Midoriya is Katsuki Bakugo's victim of bullying? Oh my god, how could that kid enter the school with something like that on his record? Call the police. Someone call the heroes and arrest that kid. Somebody stop this match. He's a freaking sociopath. Is he trying to be a hero? More like a villain, if you ask me. More and more poisonous words hit his earshot, permeating through his skull and bouncing around like church bells between his eyes. More and more, these thoughts attacked his mind, the image he had built up in his mind of himself shattering in real time. People began to boo him, telling him to get lost and take responsibility. Katsuki felt that he was sinking again, like the time when he was talking to Izumi's father about Deku's plan, but this time it caused his entire body to grow numb. He felt his breath shorten as the world collapsed in on him. And then he finally realized what this feeling was. That cold, dark feeling that had such a stranglehold on his soul. It was fear. You feel that, Kakin? Katsuki looks to his opponent, who's being pinned on his feet. That's sticky heat. Rising up the back of your neck. That flop sweat? That's fear, Izuku replied, smirking coldly. Greed you're already acquainted with. Now you'll feel like a target, being hit by society's blow. Katsuki felt his feet shaking as he was doing right now, only painting him an even bigger target for everyone to boo him even more for his disgusting action. He took his feet off and retreated to the back with a fearful expression on his face. Like a digital tattoo, your name will forever be etched in the internet, abandoned by everyone around you, like I was, in those 10 years in isolation. Shut up. Katsuki throws an explosion to Deku's side, throwing him off to the side as Katsuki begins to livid at this situation. You're nothing. Katsuki shouts at Izuku. You are worthless. You always have been. Why can't you just stay in your place? I'll kill you, DKU. Hey, get out of there. Yeah, leave him alone. Get out. Get out of there. Do us all a favor and forfeit from the match. Surrender. Why don't you? Yeah, surrender. 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 Katsuki glances at the mob of the audience who are shouting in unison all around the circular arena. Their shouting voices kept overlaying inside his ears, creating thousands of layers of shouting every single second as he felt himself backed into the corner. He refused to bend his knee to the likes of Deku. Because of him, now everyone knows what he did, what he used to do. But why is everyone suddenly lecturing about his decision right now? In everyone's eyes at school, what he did was considered the right choice, the correct one. Everyone praises him for putting Deku in his place. So why is everyone telling him that he's wrong? Izuku gets up from his feet, shaking from the pain, but forces himself to get up. Now the cheers have turned to favor Izuku, cheering on him to teach Bakugo a lesson for bullying him all those years ago. Now, the roles have been reversed. Katsuki, who is always being praised for becoming a hero, has turned into the antagonist. Izuku, the quirkless kid who was told that he was worth nothing, has become the protagonist. Now Katsuki is the villain in his own story. Don't worry, I still haven't done with you yet. Izuku winces in pain while forcing himself to get up. I've struck you down, mentally and socially. Now it's time. I strike you physically. Haha. Katsuki desperately laughs at his statement. His laugh is dried up just like his throat. You think that you can actually beat me? I won't be here. If I won't. Izuku chuckled while panting heavily. Everyone kept booing him with his past, now being exposed to the public, demanding that he take himself out of the tournament. His hand trembles in frustration while seeing Deku smiling with the satisfaction that he just fell into his trap just like that. He can't accept that. He refused to believe that his entire future would crumble at this moment. He couldn't allow the one he had despised all his life, Deku, to leave him there, and it wounded his pride. I'm not pathetic. You're the useless one. You're DKU, he screamed. His voice cracked with a fury that hid a more painful truth, fear. Fear of being insignificant, of being surpassed by someone he had always considered inferior. Shut up. Katsuki exploded, propelling himself toward where Deku was standing, blinded by his rage and anger, not minding his surroundings like he was trapped. But before anything could happen, Izuku swept out his right leg from under him, causing Katsuki to stagger and fall to his knee at an awkward angle. The green-haired boy then whipped around to the boy's left side, performing a flawless grappling move that locked the blonde's left arm in place as Izuku placed one of his feet on the boy's throat. Before Katsuki could even blink, he found himself wrapped up and shoved to the ground. Yield. Now, Izuku told him with such spite that it could kill. Katsuki looked the boy dead in the eyes, an expression of pure rage as he bared his teeth like a wild beast at the very idea of admitting defeat to anyone, let alone Deku. Never. The green-haired boy's eyes narrowed as he held the boy in place, applying just a bit more pressure to Katsuki's throat. He still had the blonde's left arm locked down, with the palm facing away from him to ensure he wouldn't be attacked. Katsuki saw a dangerous glint cross the boy's lifeless eyes, still menacing all the same. Should I have expected anything else? The boy asked no one in particular. Then again, I was hoping you would say that. Remember, Bakugo, you could have avoided this yourself. You worthless nerd. Katsuki yelled back as he tried to align his other palm to launch an attack. You dare to threaten me? Izuku just shook his head from side to side, looking straight at the blonde's arm. I wasn't threatening you. I was simply informing you. The hell are you? Katsuki's world became nothing but pain as he felt the bones in both his left arm and hand shatter. From his shoulder to his fingers, his entire left arm felt like it was being stabbed, twisted, and smashed all at the same time. The blonde had never felt so much pain in his life. Wetness leaked from his eyes and blurred his vision, but Katsuki refused to let this be the end. He squirmed on the ground in utter agony, seeing Deku standing idly by from the corner of his vision. He did this to him. Deku broke his arm. A few of the audience turned away from hearing the snapping sounds coming from the arena. Some of them even winced seeing the gruesome act, but they could tell from the sound of snapping and cracking, followed by the screaming, painful sound coming from Bakugo's throat, that his arm had just been broken by Izuku. Aizawa, along with Mike, who's in the commentary booth, also winces and simply watches the match continue. Under normal circumstances, they would have disqualified Izuku for excessive force and causing a major injury, especially broken bones, but this whole order isn't normal to begin with, and they just watch the boy have his arm broken. Katsuki lies on the ground face down, unable to get a feel of his left arm other than excruciating pain coursing through his entire body. He could feel his arm break and become dislocated from his joint, which made his arm wobble. He glared, looking towards Deku's sole shoes, since it's the only thing that he could see from his point of view, and grits his teeth from both the pain and rage he's feeling right now. He began to concentrate on his right hand, the only good arm he had left, and cracked it with an explosion. The explosion he was preparing in his hands would be much more devastating than before. If I kill him, if I crush him now, everything will go back to the way it was before, he thought as the sweat on his palms sizzled with explosive. Yeah, everything will go back to normal. Only this time, Deku will be gone for good. Using his one good hand, Katsuki leaped at the green-haired boy once more, refusing to accept the reality developing around him. Pain still vibrated up and down his arm as he sailed closer to his opponent, but Deku didn't appear fazed. Die DKU. His scream echoed through the stadium, filled with desperation no one had ever seen in Katsuki before. The crowd was stunned. Not even the heroes present reacted in time. What? However, Katsuki's attack never reached Izuku. At the last second, something came in between the blast and its target. It looks metallic. Something that looks like a giant construction tool blocks into the blast while hovering in between them. Then it spuns, smacking Katsuki, stumbling him to the back before another piece came flying. It looked like something came flying from the air, and the machine began to fly over to Izuku's direction while he extended both his hands, and the machine started to assemble in his arms, forming something of a pneumatic jackhammer shaped like a piledriver hammer. The end of it is connected to pneumatic pistons. They run from the hand through the arm socket and out the elbow and can extend out of either side. Katsuki stared at Deku's invention that was just flying around now, being equipped to him with two of his arms, now turned into a piledriver hammer with a piston at its back, wondering what kind of joke is he pulling right now. You think that putting scrap to your hand is going to make a difference? Katsuki looks at the new invention that's on him and finds it ridiculous. I'll just shatter that in pieces. Izuku stood with his new invention, feeling the weight of it was far more than he predicted, but right now, he just had to pull through and do this. He needs to make a statement with his action to silence those fools. He raises his piston hand, pointing at Katsuki as the blonde looks in wonder at his intention. It's time to finish this match. Izuku took a stance, holding to his piston, between the faux king and the impotent child. What? 10 years living under your thumb, and now I'm going to bury all of that in this match. My past, and along with you. Izuku pants. After this, you are done. Nothing. Katsuki, who heard that, felt his face redden from anger and rage. Nothing? He is nothing? Katsuki Bakugo is not nothing. He's the man who's going to be the #1 hero. The one who will surpass All Might. The one who claimed the title of the strongest. He grits his teeth while growling before launching himself forward. Shut up and die. Katsuki throws a set of explosions to his front, but Izuku blocks it with his metal arm and smacks at his face, causing the boy to stumble. Both of them then brawl with each other, throwing punches, kicks, and fighting in desperation. Izuku threw a blow over to Katsuki's chin, causing the boy to stumble from the weight along, and felt both hands gripped at the back of his head before his face got kicked with a knee, causing vital fluid to slur. Katsuki then takes a punch from his piledriver arm, with the piston being pulled before it is pushed forward, causing a strong blow hit through his chest like he was just hit by a battering ram. Katsuki tried to shout, but began to cough up as something sharp dug into his side. He felt something that tasted like iron hit his lip and saw a red puddle on the floor coming from his lips. That defect. He broke my rib. All that talk, but could. Izuku panted out. And it looks like I finally found a way to shut you up. Shut up. Another cough, but Katsuki simply shook his head, ignoring the pain. Shut up. I am the best, goddammit. The best. I am destined to be #1. Everybody always said that. The only loser who never seemed to get the memo was you. Katsuki faced Izuku frantically. I'm the best. I have always been the best. I'm going to be the #1 hero. No matter who I need to crush to get there. No matter who I have to kill. I'll take it with my own 2 hands. Katsuki runs forward, trying to throw an explosive right hook to the quirkless defect before he gets pushed to the ground and is pinned on the concrete floor. Even all these years, you Bakugus are always predictable. Izuku coldly replied, raising his right hand in the air and landing a solid blow with his piledriver hammer. Arg! Katsuki began to vomit, having his abdomen hit by that jackhammer. Deku! Katsuki cursed. Izuku throws a right hook over to his chin, causing him to bleed out and chip a tooth. Wake up! I'm not done yet. He pulled Katsuki's hair and yanked it out while dragging him out. He dragged him out like a rag, not caring about the stain on the concrete floor coming from Bakugo's mouth where it bled. You're the one who wanted a one-on-one match, right? It only settled when one of us is dead, right? Then Izuku pulled the piston and delivered another blow to the center of his abdomen. And just like before, Katsuki yelled loudly from the blow. It feels like his chest has just taken a full swing from a battering ram. My ribs. It's about to be crushed. By that arm. Then something happened to Katsuki's chest, apart from the fact that his ribs were cracking. Something rips open from his chest, and vital fluid starts to leak from it. What? Then, another blow landed on his abdomen, and vital fluid began to splash like a fountain in the color of red. It can't be. Another blow landed, and Deku's fist was covered in red liquid. This time, there's a strong smell of iron coming from the red liquid pouring from it. From a year ago, where that Deku stabbed me. The stitches, they ripped open. Sho, we have to stop this. Midoriya, he's gonna kill him if this continues. Present Mike spoke quietly in the commentary booth, looking at Bakugo get a beat down. Aizawa sits in silence, watching the match with his own two eyes. We need to stop him. We have to stop him. But I don't want to stop him. I don't. Katsuki felt like his gut was about to be smashed to a paste, that his inside will be smashed by those fists. At this moment, Katsuki felt like something clicked for the first time in 14 years of his life. This guy really trying to kill me. I'm gonna die. Deku, he's gonna kill me for sure. He realized that he's screwed right now. If Deku didn't stop with his beating, then he's going to continue until his organs were out of vital fluid or being heavily damaged for being slammed like that. Another blow landed, and Katsuki vomits a lot of vital fluid this time. He could tell he was probably 1 or 2 blows away before he was screwed and turned into a paste. He wanted to let go of the pain, be released from the misery, and be done, but if he did that, then he would lose his chance forever. His dream of becoming the number 1 will evaporate the moment he says those 2 words. But if he doesn't, then Deku is going to continue, and by the looks of it, he's not going to stop until he is finished. The teacher won't intervene because he declared it to be a one-man standing match, meaning that this won't end until one person gives up. All Might gave his word to the stadium, meaning that no one could stop the match but himself. He can't give up. He won't give up his dream, even if it means dying. But if he doesn't, then that's his future. His mind is battling deep, fighting between instinct and reason, a fight or flight situation, knowing his life is on the line for the first time. Having no other choice, he grits his teeth in frustration, ready to say those 2 words that he detests. I surrender. The words echoed across the arena as everyone just stood where they were in disbelief. Everyone, including those sitting in the teacher's booth and both Aizawa and Mike in the commentary booth, also shared the bewildered look. Even All Might shares the same look as those in the stadium. Katsuki opens his mouth in an agape situation. The only difference is that he wasn't the one who said those words. But the words didn't come out of his mouth. It was Deku. Isizuku pulled his fist away and released his grip on Katsuki before walking away, leaving the blonde on the ground, lying in the crater, unable to even lift his body from all the pain. But before he left, Isizuku pulled something from his pocket. It was a red marker. He wrote a word on Katsuki's forehead with a marker, and he closed the marker back before gripping his throat and lifting his body in the air with his piledriver hammer hand and shouting in the air. Aldra! His voice is thunderous like thunder, roaring loud enough for the whole stadium to hear it without missing any words as everyone's attention turns to the center of the arena. Look at your king, Isizuku said loudly for everyone down the arena to hear. His voice echoes through the entire stadium and chills run through their spines. This man is no god. He is nothing. He shouts from the top of his lungs. Isizuku showed Katsuki's defeated figure for everyone to see, and the camera pointed to the arena, looking at his defeat with a single letter written on his forehead. Deku. Isizuku hated the word Deku. It was a word that Bakugo and the others always used to call him. The one word that has always been tattooed at the back of his mind in the last 10 years, acts as a reminder of what he's all about. That's why he wrote it on Katsuki's forehead, to represent himself to him. Once he was finished, Isizuku threw Katsuki on the floor with his back and landed on the ground without a single care as his body rolled down and Katsuki groaned. Without even looking back at him, Isizuku began to walk, his steps firm but tired, away from the arena, the crowd, and Katsuki. Every step he took hit him like a hammer in the chest. Deku was moving away. That image of the quirkless boy who had always been his shadow, his target of mockery and scorn, was now moving away from him, not in defeat, but in something worse, in indifference. And with each step, Katsuki felt smaller, more insignificant. No, Katsuki thought, anger boiling inside him again. It can't end like this. He can't leave me behind. His body shook, more from rage than pain, as he managed to get to his feet. Where are you going, Deku? He screamed weakly, still feeling the pain from the blow, his voice echoing in the arena. Get back here and fight, Deku. I'm not through with you yet. It was the voice of a child who didn't understand how he had lost control of everything. A cry of desperation, a last attempt to hold on to something he had already lost. Izuku, however, was unfazed. He continued walking as if Katsuki's words didn't affect him in the slightest. However, before crossing the threshold of the arena, he stopped without turning around. His voice, low but firm, resonated with a coldness that froze Katsuki's blood. But I'm through with you. You're not worth it. He continued to walk to the tunnel, not turning his head. You never were. Izuku steps out from the arena. His figure is left nowhere to be found from the tunnel where he came in at the beginning of the match. All that's left is the battered figure of Katsuki lying in his own pool of vital fluid while sulking at his undeserved victory. After waking up from the surprise news, Midnight cracked her whip to announce the results in a low tone. Izuku Midoriya stepped out of bounds. So Katsuki Bakugo wins. Everyone, including Present Mike, was silent. The final match was over, but not the result that everyone expected. The voice hero soon realized he had to say something, lacking his usual loudness or excitement as he repeated Midnight's announcement. So it appears, the victor of the first-year sports festival is Katsuki Bakugo. Should have pushed you off on the rooftop back when I had the chance in school. The news reporter stood in the front courtyard of Sports Festival Stadium. Hundreds to thousands of civilians stood behind the camera's view, some looking in the camera's direction while others ignored it. The reporter straightened her hair a few seconds before looking at the camera. And there you have it, folks. Reports are coming in all over the news regarding the event of the Sports Festival Final Tournament. Ito Harumi from Channel 7 announced in front of the camera, this short clip of the UA student, Katsuki Bakugo, has swarmed across the internet, being saved, uploaded, and shared hundreds of thousands of times. While the content of this video is appalling, we at Channel 7 believe that the public should be shown this clip in its entirety, as to leave no room for speculation. Harumi took a deep breath, and the camera zoomed in on her face slightly. Katsuki Bakugo openly assaulted and committed bullying another child less than a year before his admission to the most prestigious hero school in all of Japan. Not to mention where he openly admitted that he intended to push Izuku Midoriya, the contestant of the sports festival tournament, 2 times, before entering UA and 1 week before the sports festival began. The camera panned back, and Harumi straightened her posture, trying to maintain her professional look. Article that was launched about a week before Sports Festival started, where someone mentioning Student K's identity is 100% certain that Student K is indeed Katsuki Bakugo, the contestant in this year's Sports Festival tournament. Judging by the wound on Midoriya's back during the semifinal when battling against Shoto Todoroki, it's certain that investigation has been performed on both Alder Junior High and UA themselves on how such matter is kept under the wrap. As of this moment, there have been no updates from a UA about this unprecedented turn of events, but we are monitoring the situation closely and will update the public as soon as we can. The reporter nodded and bared her teeth, but one thing is certain. This cannot go unanswered. The screen shifts to blue, and a large stylized number 7 appears on the screen. Yet, Izuku hardly reacts, staring blankly at the screen as the logo rotates mutely in front of him. He stares at the screen in silence, sitting on the curb of a quickly dimming room. The sports festival just ended about an hour ago. Right now, Izuku is lying on his bed at the infirmary, where Recovery Girl is tending to his injury from the fight against Bakugo. He is now being guarded by ectoplasm at the front door. Everyone knew. Everyone has finally learned what Bakugo had done over the past 10 years, as the video of the CCTV of their conversation on the rooftop was leaked to the media and opened a lot of investigation of the matter. Even the cover-up of the bullying for 10 years in Aldera is now being investigated. Some people from Aldera quickly try to save their skin by saying that it was all Bakugo's fault and he was forcing them to do it, or they would become the next in line of his bullying targets. Everyone started to dump all of the faults onto one person, and that said person was Bakugo. Bakugo's name is being thrown in and out, but not in a positive way, as everyone kept mentioning and asking how come this type of behavior is condoned, and the media has been hounding both Aldera and UA for it. One is for giving him the pass, and the other is for passing him. There was no medal ceremony for the sports festival this year. There were no fireworks and thousands of clapping hands to congratulate the winner of the festival. No stadium flyover congratulating the winner. After the events of the final match, UA shut down the entire sports festival and had the stadium vacated after the fact had been spread. Many of the teachers have been tasked with facilitating this process, namely Eraserhead and Ectoplasm, leaving several other teachers scrambling to quell the situation that had evolved since that final blow. From what he can tell, Principal Nizu had no idea of the bullying that Bakugo performed before UA, and now was buried deep for the whole report and answering questions, all because his stepfather chose to cover things up for Bakugo's past. This explains why Ectoplasm is standing in front of his door to guard any visitor and not his clone, but his real body. Suddenly, someone knocked on the door. He looked up trying to get a better look, but proved to be difficult because of his cast, only to find the entire class be students at the door, along with Hatsum, all asking how he was doing while others were congratulating him on his victory, while some is asking of his involvement with Bakugo, only to be stopped by Ectoplasm, who's guarding the door. Since the rule only allows for 6 visitors, Kendo, Minoma, Hatsum, Tetsu, Setsuna, and Ibara are heading in first. Midoriya, Kendo practically shouted as she quickly approached him. If it wasn't for the fact that he was still injured, she would have pulled him into a tight hug. "Hey, Kendo." The boy slightly blushed. "I'm so glad to see that you're finally awake. I was worried sick about you." Kendo looked at his injury. Her eyes trailed on the cast on his right hand. "Yeah." He looks down, looking at the cast itself as a sign of victory. "Man, can't believe you put a sock to Bakugo like that," Aways commented. "And he was like looking in dazed or something," Tetsu said, kind of like a deer in headlights. "It's fortunate that you weren't seriously injured," Ibara replied. "Yeah, you want to see his face when they announced him as the winner? It's freaking hilarious." Minoma comes holding his phone at the recording of the end of the festival. "So, how are you feeling? I was told that your injury is pretty severe." Kendo decided to ask, wanting to know about his condition. "I'm fine mostly, but the doctors told me that I have some pretty serious ligament damage in my arm because I overused my pile driver." Izuku looked down at his injured limb, feeling like his arm was going to come off from overusing his invention. "Yeah, it's pretty bad if you ask me." Hatsum replied, "That pile driver is freakishly strong, but it's taking a great toll on your body. I'm surprised your joint didn't come off from using it, considering the force on that thing. It's going to be okay, right?" Kendo asked, her voice briefly growing uneasy. She still had no idea what the extent of his injuries was. "From what we know, I'll still be able to use it." He knows the danger of using that invention in the first place. It was a prototype to begin with many faulty and in need of innovation, but you know what? Let's not worry about that right now. "How are you?" She took note that he had cut himself off. There was something more to it than what he would tell her, but she didn't want to press the topic for the time being. "I'm fine. Recovery girl has managed to heal my injury, and I'm good to go." Izuku holds his bed sheet tightly, gripping it. "Kendo, I'm so sorry." Kendo looks up. "For what?" "You got caught up in my problems with Bakugo, and you got injured by it." He looks down, unable to face her. "Had you never known about my problem, you wouldn't have any reason to go after Bakugo in the first place." Kendo exhaled before turning her attention to him, while smiling fondly at him. "Midoriya, I didn't come after Bakugo just because of what he did to you. Because I know it's the right thing to do." Izuku wants to speak up, but Kendo cuts her off, people like Bakuga don't get to live freely without having someone chasing after his past like you did. What you did to him, to me, that's called justice. Izuku stared with wide eyes, looking shocked. For the first time, someone told him that what he did was right. That going after Bakuga is the correct choice. For all his life, people kept telling him not to bother with Bakuga, to stop sabotaging him, and to not provoke him by any means necessary. They all say the same thing. Bakuga is destined to be a hero and will become great one day. And now someone is telling him that Bakuga isn't what those people have been telling him for the past 10 years. That he deserved the punishment for what he did to him. Izuku and Kendo shared a look, knowing that this was the first time someone supported his decision. Someone he could rely on. He, of course, had Hatsum, Tetsu, and Setsuna as his friends inside UA. But somehow, Kendo seemed to be the one person he could count on to be with him. Someone he wanted to be with at all times. Izuku stared at her for a moment, with Kendo also looking at him in the eye. Their face seems to be close to one another while his cheek blushed from staring at her. Ahem! Izuku and Kendo turned their heads simultaneously, seeming to remember that there's still Setsuna and the others in the room with the green-haired girl grinning in the middle. Don't mind me. Just continued. Setsuna grins, giving them the go sign. Setsuna. Come on, Kendo. It's the job of the princess to give her shining knight a kiss for saving her. I don't. Thankfully, the door is opened, and Recovery Girl walks in, telling them to leave the room to give her patient a rest, much to Kendo's relief from dying of embarrassment. All right, visiting hour is over. He needs to get some rest, and that means I need you all to leave this room. Recovery Girl came and tried to push past the other towards the door. We'll see you later, Midoriya. Ibara told the boy with a quick wave as the others also share their goodbye. All right, he nodded. The last person to leave the room was Kendo. She still had so much on her mind at that moment, but didn't want to fluster the already injured boy with such sensitive questions. Hey, Izuku, text me as soon as you get out of here, the orange-haired girl said with one final squeeze of his hand, slowly breaking away from the contact before walking out. All right. Once the other students were finally gone and the door was closed, Izuku retreated back to his bed while looking at the ceiling, thinking of what's going to happen to him now. The media were going to need some answers on the CCTV recording on that rooftop, wondering what it means because unlike the others, this one is recorded and has gained a lot of attention in the media. He could tell that Principal Nizu would want to have a conversation with him regarding the matter and ask for some kind of statement. And the only thing that stopped him was Recovery Girl's medical order to not disturb her patient. But now, the principal is in a dire situation. With no idea of the cover-up done by his stepfather, his position is in jeopardy and in desperate need of some kind of solution to solve it. But he had already answered him a long time ago when he met him for the first time. Written in a beautiful poem. In the UA admission office, the office phones continued to ring ever since the sports festival had ended nonstop over the last 2 hours like a broken school bell. Office workers and secretarial staff continued to take the calls from left and right, not taking a break for less than 5 seconds, all asking about the main topic at hand of the UA school. Is UA really allowing someone with a violent past to be a student? Katsuki Bakuga shouldn't be allowed in the school. Is the video of Bakuga trying to push Midoriya 100% real and not doctored? This is the Ministry of Education. We would like to have a conversation with Principal Nizu. It's urgent. I'm from the Mizuta News. Can I ask for a statement from Principal Nizu? I'm sorry, Principal Nizu isn't here at the moment. Yes, we're currently investigating the matter internally. The atmosphere in the principal room is grim. No longer does the warmth from the sun hit the window to give that sense of warmth that the mammal is looking for every time he walks in. Right now, the room is cold like ice with a suffocating feeling inside. Inside, Toshinori could only sit in the chair, looking down at the surface of the cheap, scuffed table that lay in front of him. He dropped off his All Might persona and reverted to his skinny figure while taking a seat with the white mammal himself. Toshinori had been a hero for almost 4 decades, battling against many villains, reducing the crime numbers in Japan after making his debut here, and even finishing the Demon Lord, all for one. He's the man who's hailed as All Might, the symbol of peace. Yet, he felt powerless and lost his bravery and vigor while face to face with the principal, who was only around 5 feet tall. Principal Nizu had just finished watching the news and looking at the number of complaints hanging in his rear that almost 70% of new student admissions for next year are being pulled out. Over 100 students are asking to pull their sons and daughters from the school, not wanting their children to associate with a criminal. So, Nizu begins. I'm sure you know why we're holding you here. Tashinori does not speak, but nods, gauging the reaction of Nizu. As usual, the rodent seems unaffected, patiently waiting. However, he knows that facade hides one of the most creatively sadistic minds he has ever known. Nizu begins, I just got off from a call from the teachers' committee. They all filed a lawsuit against the school and demanded to pull their sons and daughters from UA, all from the first year to the third year. Almost 70% of next year's school admissions for our new students are canceling their requests and moving away from UA. They quoted, "We want to find a school that's not colluding into harboring a criminal." How intriguing. Nizu squeaked out a small giggle. One of the parents who applied is the son of the Minister for Internal Affairs and Communications. They were all looking forward to shutting the school down and suing the school for letting it happen. Principal, if you just let me explain. Tashinori's feet shake as he tries to come up with an answer to defend himself. But his face is met with a teacup thrown at his face, courtesy of Nizu. Do you have any idea of what you just did because of your stupid action here? Tashinori. How dare you try to pull a show under my watch and have the bravery to smile, acting like nothing is wrong. Tashinori could only fall back behind his seat, taking the anger that was being thrown right at his face right now. You were telling me that you didn't know of your son's situation, and now there's proof that your son has been abused under the hands of Katsuki Bakugo for almost 10 years. And you didn't know about this? I didn't. Sir, you know that my stepson is working for All for One. This whole thing must have been his plan to discredit the heroes and cause disarray to our hero society. He's trying to divide us all. The only disarray I see is your attitude right now. Do you realize that you just destroyed the whole school's reputation because you put your name on Katsuki Bakugo's recommendation letter? The whole of Japan saw that as you approved of his action and endorsed it. I swear, sir, I have no idea of Katsuki Bakugo having such a dark past like this. It came as a shock for me, too. Is that what you said? Shock. Then what's this that I find on the internet? Principal Nizu handed a tablet showing the recording of the conversation between Katsuki and Isizuku, pointing out a certain scene. Yeah, your dad told us to do it anyway, so just do us all a favor and die. Tashinori widens his eyes at the video of young Bakugo, telling him straight up that his father wants him dead, knowing who it could have been. He's starting to sweat, looking at the principal. There must be some kind of mistake, hurry, sir. Who's this father he's speaking of if it's not you? You're his father after all? Or are you saying that Midoriya finds himself a new family that wants him dead? It's possible, Tashinori weakly argued. Do you take me for a fool like you, Tashinori? Principal Nizu stops his anger before calming himself down and looking at the skinny blonde-haired man who seems to be glad that he isn't being targeted at his anger fit any longer. Is there anything at all that you didn't tell me regarding this matter? Tashinori took a moment, not knowing what to answer. There's a lot of stuff that the principal didn't know just yet. Of how he ordered Aldera to cover the whole matter. Of how he knows of his son's bullying situation and turned a blind eye. Of how he rigged the match in favor of his stepson to lose in the tournament. Of how he ordered the destruction of his support gear to ruin his chance. He can't even change his stepson's mind to withdraw the statement after he is done recovering. Flashbacks start. No, I won't retract my statement regarding Bakugo. In the room in the infirmary, Tashinori stood while looking at his stepson to pardon Katsuki Bakugo moments away before he was brought into prison. Be reasonable. Are you really going to condemn young Bakugo's career because of a grudge from the past? No, because if it were up to me, I'd bury him alive in wet cement and pour it on to case his rotten corpse. Tashinori, who didn't like that answer, took a step forward to Izuku's bed and stared at him with a darkened look, one that he would display whenever he confronted a villain. You knew who I am. You knew what I'm capable of. You want to make an enemy out of me, boy. Tashinori threatened as his voice grew deeper. I can end your career right on the spot, without even so much as to blink. Your friends in your class, that girl from Class B, their future will be ruined because of you. Because of your disobedience towards me. Tashinori looks at him with his sunken eyes. You'll be stating that the video is false on live media, and anything regarding young Bakugo is not true. And in exchange, I'll grant you anything you want. Anything I want. Izuku perked up at his words, raising his brow. Huh, that seems a pretty sweet deal coming from the #1 hero himself. That certainly benefits both of us. Okay, I'm in. As long as you can fulfill my wish. Excellent. I know that you'd see reason, my boy. Tashinori seems to be pleased, smiling on his skeleton figure face despite the bad intention. Izuku displays a thin smile before answering good. Then bring my father back to me now. Tashinori then returns in silence at the mere mention of Hisashi's name coming from his stepson's mouth. And go lick the shoes and butthole of every person in the stadium. He chuckled before giving the middle finger to his stepfather. I told this to Bakugo before. They'll be planning on making their life in here turn to hell that you'd wish to die. But for you, I'll make it special instead. He fixes his position before looking at his stepfather with a wicked smile and giving the finger at him. From this moment on, you won't be given a single moment of peace. Just like them, you'll be forced to live yourself in full alert at all times. I'll keep pursuing you till I take everything you've got to give, no matter how far you run. Flashback end. No. Nizu sighed before pouring himself another cup of tea, trying to calm his mind from the cluster of this whole situation, knowing that this whole thing is going to ruin his whole school's reputation. Right now, the whole public demanded that we take action for Bakugo's past action. Because he's the winner of the sports festival by default, we can't hold a medal ceremony for him. But I'm not too happy that someone has strong-armed me with the one-for-all secret to get what he wants. So what does that mean? It means that I have to make a choice. Nizu's eyes glared in Tashinori's direction. If I punished Bakugo, then the school would be under microscopic surveillance by the board director of education, and we have no choice but to accept Midoriya into the hero course because of the regulation. But if I punished Midoriya for releasing the footage on national scale, then UA would be guaranteed to get shut down. But we can't let young Midoriya enter the hero course at all. It would only give him more reign with him being an all-for-one spy. So we'll give Bakugo a free pass? For maiming Midoriya on live television, and after his whole reveal of him bullying the kid? Nizu argued back, finding talking with Tashinori is like talking to a brick wall. Do you honestly think that Katsuki Bakugo is worth almost 600 students? That's the number of students who will resign from school that we'll be looking at if we pardon his action. Nizu realized that he had to make a choice. If he didn't punish Bakugo, then the whole school might get shut down, and the kid would get transferred into some juvie. Normally, he would have expelled the kid and be done with it. But the problem is that All Might signed his signature on recommending the kid when he was entering UA. And what's worse, it's not under All Might's name, but Tashinori Yagi's name. Kicking Katsuki Bakugo out of UA would start a chain reaction that will end in All Might's reputation being tarnished, which could destabilize the foundation of the Hero Society. Despite Tashinori being a bad person, All Might is a respected hero known to the public and the world for his heroic feats. If he mentions that he has some dark past like this, it would only stir chaos from the villain. No matter which option he took, it all came down to risk and price that made the school pay the price, and with his name on the paper, everything would come back to him in the end. He wanted to just kick Tashinori out of the school as well, but that would only bring questions to the school of why such action is being taken, and the public can't find out about the matter that Tashinori Yagi, who's secretly All Might, is giving his recommendation to him. He then remembered the poem that Midoriya had told him on the first day at school, of how it seems to be vague at the start, but it seems to be making sense now. With every heartbeat, doubt begins to fade, for courage grows in silence, deep and bright. I'll trust my gut, not be by fear dismayed, and step into the dark, embracing the light. It explains the tough decision that he needs to be making right now. Midoriya must have figured out right from the beginning that it would come out to this moment. It's almost like Midoriya is weaving the future, sighing at his desk, Nizu stared at his wooden desk before resolving himself for his answer. Izuku walks up the corridor in the UA hallway after Recover Girl has cleared him for leaving for today. She told him that he needed to get proper rest and that he should refrain from doing any physical activity for about 2 weeks. His right hand is still in a cast and should come off in 2 weeks, also much to his glad. On the first floor, Izuku approached the bulletin board. There was a statement posted that listed the results of the exam for each of the classes. Sports Festival results. First place, Katsuki Bakuga Hero Course, Student 1A disqualified. Second place, Izuka Midoriya Support Course, Student 1H. Third place, Itsuka Kendo Hero Course, Student 1B. Kendo, huh? I guess that means she moved to second place, and Shoto is taking third. He looked at the ranking order, knowing that Shoto was climbing to third due to a technicality, and it fit the bill right away. And since no ceremony or podium is standing for this year's sports festival as well, it's only being announced on a bulletin. Grabbing his phone from his pocket, he scrolled down at the article that mentioned Bakugu's past actions and saw that the number of comments that hit the article had gone up 5 times from the last time he saw it, and the number of readers had blasted off on the rooftop. 7M viewers. He looked out the window, which was covered in raindrops from the rain because of bad weather, and saw an armored car come while carrying Bakugu in there by 6 people, with the former foaming at the mouth as he fought against the officers. To make himself even worse, the reporters are taking pictures of his outbursts and shouting, thus painting him even worse than the rumors said. He stared at the armored car entering the front gate before taking his eyes off for the last time, knowing that Bakugu's future was at the end, and he had nothing to blame but himself. He continued to walk in the hallway before someone caught up to him. Hold it! Izuku didn't turn his head at the voice calling him from his rear, knowing who it belonged to. You! Just how far do you need to make fun of us before you are satisfied? Come back here, DKU! Katsumi shouts in the hallway, her voice filled with anger and rage laced with each word while panting from running. She woke up moments after her brother lost the tournament and watched the news of how her brother tried to throw him off on the rooftop. The next thing she knew, her brother got expelled and sent to juvie. Ah, Katsumi, you're already awake. How's the view? Izuku asked calmly, turning his head just to see her face. You, just what kind of game are you playing here? Katsumi roared, looking for an answer after hearing the news she got from Izumi's father. Flashback start. At the principal's office, Izuku sits on the sofa while looking around the room since it's the second time he was there. There's a rack filled with many books inside, along with many awards and trophies of his past accomplishments. There's a Chinese teacup on his desk and a fireplace on the side to keep the room warm because of the rain outside. Izuku sits while facing Principal Nizu at the front, with his stepfather taking the left side and Aizawa-sensei on his right. The principal and Aizawa had a pensive look on their face, but the same can't be said with his stepfather, who seems to be gritting his teeth trying to withhold his anger. Well, just as the rule states, within the UA school regulation, you are being granted an opportunity to move to the hero course for winning the sports festival. Nizu replied, pushing the document into his hand as he took it. He reads the transfer document on it, and reads it while eyeing his front, looking at the pissed expression on his stepfather's face, knowing that he didn't like for one bit that he just won the tournament. I'm sure that you worked hard for it, and now it's come to fruition, wasn't it? Is expelling Bakugu from the hero course also part of your plan for it? Nizu talks, trying to stir up a conversation, but just like before, Izuku is more focused on the paper than the conversation itself. Izuku then finished looking at the document and holding it in his left hand. Is this all of it? The whole transfer paper? Yes, that's all of it. Thanks. Then Izuku did something that none of the adults had predicted. He throws the document into the fireplace and lets the fire swallow it. Sorry, it's just getting chilly in here, Izuku replied in a monotone voice, shocking the adult at his action. Flashback end. What is your whole game here? Isn't entering the hero course supposed to be your endgame here? Isn't that why you emptied my brother's seat, so you could sit on it? Katsumi pants at her breath, lashing out her anger at what just happened when she finds out about it. How Mr. Yagi told her that he was sorry that her brother was being expelled and that he sympathized with her, and telling her how he throws the transferred paper into the fireplace. She couldn't take it any longer at his game right now. First, he puts the whole class on edge with him coming to UA, then sabotages her brother by blowing his gauntlet, threatening her brother, planning on winning sports festival, beating her along with Shoto, and exposing her brother's act, and gets him expelled and put into juvie. And now, here she finds out that he just throwing his goal of entering the hero course and just wanted to straight up looking for an answer. Is this whole thing just a game to you, huh? That you just want to straight up messing around while treating US like your toys? Is that it? Answer me, damn it. Izuku kept his face in front, not looking back to where Katsumi was standing before he turned his face over to her and showed a thin smile to her. Katsumi. She was slightly tense at the cold intonation in his voice, like a shrapnel of ice had hit the inside of her throat. When did I ever say that I want to catapult myself into the hero course? Katsumi is taken aback by his answer, which does not seem to register in her mind for a moment before she finally understands what he is talking about. At that moment, she realized that he never once said that he was planning on using the sports festival to climb into hero course at all. It was just an assumption made by them that turned into a fact of their own. Katsumi looks lost. If entering hero course isn't his true goal, then what is? What's his true goal in coming here other than to ruin their future? I told you this before. I'm going to make your life in this place turn to hell. That you all wish you'd rather die instead. Your brother? He's just the first in line. Katsumi looked at Deku's expression and felt nothing but pure terror, like he was capable of doing things that were necessary when it was needed. If he could put Katsuki in prison and end his dream on the spot with a single video, what else could he do to them that he hasn't done? Next, it will be you all who'll face the gallows, and I'll be the one who pulls the lever down for you. Izuku showed a thin smile at her before winking and making his way to leave her in the hall, not bothering to have another conversation with her. He began making his way down the stairs and headed to the door before someone stood on the landing tread and came between him before heading home. Right at the stairs, Hatsum is standing there, almost like waiting for him to come. Hatsum? Izuku calls her name. She holds a pensive expression. Unlike the cheerful expression that fills with giddiness he always saw, it's almost like she's acting serious for once. In her hand, she holds what appears to be a notebook that seems to be dirty and has burn marks on it. Both of them stared at each other at the stairs, locking eyes with one another, not making any move at all at the dark staircase, followed by the sound of lightning and thunder in the background. 2 weeks have passed since the incident at the sports festival, and everyone has moved on with their lives and resumed their activity. The students have continued with their usual curriculum after a week's break following the incident with what happened in the sports festival tournament. The whole incident had turned into a wildfire after finding out that one of the hero course students of first year had a history of bullying and had attacked a student who just happened to be schooling inside UA as well. The media had a field day with the whole UA Institute wanting to dig up dirt on the said student and wondering if UA had anything to do with it. The said student is already facing a prison sentence for assaulting another student inside the UA area on the sports festival arena, where thousands of pairs of eyes were watching what happened. Not only that, but after a thorough investigation, it turns out that the number of crimes had accumulated over the course of 10 years and remained unpunished. Now UA is under a microscope with the Education Board, has been monitoring and doing an in-house investigation to see if there's any sign of tampering or cover-up to another student or not. And everyone is under surveillance to see if anything else they might uncover for the time being. But one thing that is clear is that Izuku Midoriya hasn't stopped just yet. That it's only the beginning. Kring. The sound of the bell has ended for the day. Power Loader, the homeroom of Class 1H, puts his things away and heads out, finished with his class for today, as the rest of the class starts to pack. Don't forget that we'll be having a test tomorrow. Don't forget to study. Power Loader reminds them before taking his leave. As Class 1H got their stuff out, Hatsum placed her belongings into her bag, getting ready to head to the development studio to work on her invention once more, hoping that this time won't be blown off like what happened the last time. Izuku, you're coming? She called out to the resident's green-haired kid who was sitting in front of her. He, too, just finished packing up his belongings. Sure. I'll meet you back at the studio, Izuku replied. Why wait? We can go together if that's okay. Hatsum responded, and Izuku looked at his table, finding it already cleared of his belongings. Yeah, sure. Let's go. Izuku replied and grabbed his bag and walked away together. They both left the class and headed back to the studio together. Normally, they would have a small talk and chat about something, but it's pretty much hard to do with every pair of eyes in the hallway staring at them both, mainly at Izuku himself. There, look. Where? Next to the girl with the pink dreadlocks. The green hair? Did you see his face? Ever since the news broke out about what happened in the sports festival, Izuku Midoriya has been the talk of everyone in the school and everyone outside of it. Whispers followed Izuku from the moment he left his class every day. People lining up outside classrooms stood on tiptoe to get a look at him or doubled back to pass him in the corridors again, staring. Now I know how Harry Potter feels in his first year, Izuku thought, looking at the stairs. Everyone recognizing him from the sports festival as the student who put down Katsuki Bakugu into the ground and landed him into prison. The kid who put his bully in his place. Most of the school viewed him as the brave kid who found his courage to stand up against his bully and managed to get his payback. Some of the other schools even try to poach him by offering a scholarship and full access to their development studio facility for his personal use. Izuku enters the studio along with Hatsum, and he immediately closes his door behind, trying to avoid the eye contact that everyone has been giving him for the past 10 minutes. Wow, finally that was over, huh? Hatsum replied, placing her bag at her desk. Tell me about it. I swear that people keep Googling at me like in a zoo or something, Izuku replied, unlocking his cabinet to pull out his toolbox. Placed on his table is an offering letter from Shiketsu for a placement in their support course, just like the other 20 offers he got this week. News has started to fly on how Izuku Midoriya, who is the winner of the sports festival, is someone who came from a support course and won by his fighting ability and his invention, which gained the attention of the other schools in Japan. And after they heard how Izuku, who's the victim under the bullying of Katsuki Bakugu, who's placed in the same school, every school in Japan is taking the chance to get Izuku Midoriya under their school. From Shiketsu to Ketsubutsu, who's the rival of UA, they offered him a chance to transfer school with all expenses paid, and he would get a scholarship with all benefit that comes with it, from using their state-of-the-art facility center, an internship with the top support company in Japan, and even the school program. Come on, you're practically the winner of the sports festival this year. Of course people are going to look at you. I won by technicality, and you're the first support student who's ever accomplished that. It was just luck, plus with my plan. And you're the kid who's been on the news for the past 2 weeks? Izuku then gave a blank look towards her as she smiled, knowing she had won their little argument. People keep their phones, Izuku. You're practically a celebrity in here. Is that why you're taking half of my request form application coming from those seniors? Izuku looked at the stacks of paper on her side of the table, piling up high, all requests for support items that were intended for Izuku's request. Now that they know Izuku Midoriya is a support student, people keep trying to get close to him by giving him a request for a support item, all in order for them to have a conversation and get to know him. But what's confusing him is that those requests are mainly coming from female students. Hey, we're all pitching in to help you out. Besides, you can thank me later by coming to my room and helping me with my homework. Yeah, sure. Izuku waved his hand and wearing his protective glasses and working on his order. Truth be told, he was a bit wary of Hatsum ever since what happened in the hallway when he confronted Katsumi after finding out about his secret. He still remembers it quite clearly up to now. Flashback start. Izuku stood in the hallway after finishing his conversation with Katsumi just now. Hatsum stood in front of him with a complicated look, almost like she was aghast by what she had just learned. Lightning and thunder strikes from outside as the two of them stood, not moving, waiting for the other to speak up. Izuku, I want to know, is this true? Hatsum asked, holding the notebook that he used to write in years ago before he entered UA. Izuku kept his silence, eyeing the notebook in her hand. The same notebook that he used to write about the hero analysis back when he was little and stored in his work desk, back in his studio. It's also his own diary of what he wrote up back before. Yeah, it's my old notebook. I used to write up hero stuff when I was little. Izuku replied, giving his answer to her, hoping that she would only open up the first few pages. And what about this? Hatsum opened the book and flipped through the pages, and found something quite disturbing, to which shocked Izuku on the inside. Buy more burn cream. Mom comes home early on Tuesday. Leave the window unlocked when you leave tomorrow. Enter via the fire escape so she doesn't see you come in. Don't go to the arcade store after school on Thursday. Kakin and his friends go there now. And then another. Kakin kept waiting after the class was over, along with Kirishima and Siro. And another. Why does everyone hate me? And another. All Might. An autograph from All Might. Izuku felt himself to be in full dizziness, thinking that Hatsum is just practically scratching off what appears to be his true self to her right now. She was showing the pages as he could see his own journal from back in the day. Look, Hatsum, what I wanted to know is it true? Her voice is shaking, trying to calm herself down, that they try to do all those things, and gets away with it. Izuku exhaled, feeling himself in the corner right now. There's no way for him to lie right now, not when his journal is being held in her hand, and she practically knows on which pages to skim to make her point to know, but now he can't get himself out of this jam by lying. It's true, Izuku replied. Hatsum gasped before collecting herself, and asked one more question. Is this true? What you write on this page? She skimmed her finger through the pages before showing it to him, and it made Izuku's eyes widen in fear of what she found in those notebooks. Mina Ishido, Mashireo Ojiro, Tsuyu Azui, Mizo Shoji, Minoru Mineta, Toru Hagakure, Shoka Todoroki, Tenya Ida, Denki Kaminari, Uraraka Achiko, Katsumi Bakugu, Hantasiro, Fumikage Tokoyami, Yuga Aoyama, Koji Koda, Ijiru Kirishima, Shoto Todoroki, Mineta Minoru, Rikido Sato, KTSUKI, BAKU Gioyu, Yamamotio SENSCI, PRINCIPEL DISUK, All Might, Inko Yagi. Izuku's eyes widened to the names on the list he had. Those are the names of people who were responsible for him in the last 10 years. It was his kill list, to be exact. It didn't take a genius to figure out that Bakugu's name was crossed off recently, along with Principal Daisuke and Yamamoto-sensei. He could try to lie or brush it off, but seeing how Hatsum is glaring at him, he knew that he couldn't lie his way out of this. Not this time. Yes, Izuku answered. Hatsum then drew her breath, exhaling and inhaling a couple of times, trying to comprehend the situation she's currently in. Jesus God. Izuku knows that her mind must be like a raging storm after knowing her friend is not what he seems to be, and that it looks like he's playing a character for everyone else to see. But Hatsum is someone he considered a friend, someone who truly understands who he is and accepts him. Okay, you're right, Izuku answered, gaining her attention and stopping her from her mid-panic attack. You don't know who I am or what I've done to deserve anything. Izuku replied, cutting straight to the point. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you everything, and when we're done, either we're going to be finished or we're going to go and talk about it. So Izuku tells her everything about it. About how he was living with the Yagis, being neglected, about his time in Aldera, and endured living without a quirk and being bullied by it, about his incident with Bakugu on the last day of school where he stabbed him, how he cut himself from the Yagis and run away from home 10 months before the entrance exam. The reason why he entered the school in the first place. It took about an hour to tell about it, and from the looks of her reaction at the end, she too didn't know what to expect. She tried her best to process it, and Izuku also didn't try to push her at all, but allowed her to take it slow. It's a lot to process having someone you know turns out to be a different person entirely, like having a split personality, for example, but this one is a split entity. I swear to God, Midoriya, this is some crazy screwed up plan you cooked up. Hatsum pants after hearing this whole thing in the last hour. She still can't believe how well his plan is, how he considered every scenario for every detail. You had no idea what I had. How long have I planned on doing this in the first place? Izuku answered solemnly. Hatsum took a moment to recollect her thoughts, trying to calm her breath before she continued to speak. So what now? You obviously had your way with Bakugu with the whole sports festival situation. What are you talking about? He asked, but did not seem to understand where she was going with the conversation. I said that I want in. If Izuku didn't awaken before, he is now. She wants to join in? Hatsum, I'm not going to help you directly. What you had with them is your business. After I heard the things they get away with all this time, I just felt disgusted. So I'm going to help you in my own way. How? By making sure that you won't cross any line. Hatsum answered, I'll keep your plan in check while silently helping you. But as a matter of how you did it, it's up to you. But if you cross some kind of unwanted line, then I'll stop it even if it means going straight to the authority. If you won't agree to my request, I'll report this to Power Loader Sensei. Hearing her ultimatum, Izuku took a moment to consider and weigh his options. He never once considered bringing someone outside of himself to help with this case at all. He always thought that this whole thing started with him and ended with him alone, that he won't bring anyone else with him. Before he answered, Izuku asked once more, wanting to know her motive. Why are you doing this? Because I have my own story as well. But Izuku isn't satisfied with that answer at all. No sane person would be helping him out of friendship reasons. Whatever pushed her to do this must be a strong feeling deep inside of her. A strong feeling that he kept for a long time. After careful thinking, Izuku gave his answer to her. Okay, he nodded. Flashback end. And ever since then, both Izuku and Hatsum had been staying close after that discussion. Of course, Izuku didn't text the whole plan to her on message chat, hoping that someone won't use it in the future. They discussed it beforehand, which is why Hatsum had created an app that allows them to message with one another undetected. He wanted to ask her about the reason why she's willing to help him. He had a rough idea that it might be related to a rough childhood or discrimination, but Hatsum hadn't told him yet, and he respected her decision to do so. He worked on his invention, fixing his gauntlet that he wears on the sports festival after having some damage when the door is opened and Power Loader enters. Ah, Midoriya, I was just on my way to see you. Power Loader greets him. What is it, Sensei? Principal Nizu is looking for you in his office. Said that he had some business to talk about. Power Loader replied, well, that's my cue to leave. Headed out to the door. He walked out of the studio with his hand in his pocket, looking at the window momentarily before he headed to the principal's office, wondering why he wanted to see him. He had some idea of why he wanted to meet him, but it's best that he didn't speculate much with a guess. While walking down the hallway, he noticed several eyes looking towards him, mentioning that him being the kid who won the sports festival. Some even say that he's the person who put an end to Bakuga's career. He didn't mind the comment, and just continued making his way to the principal's office instead. Knocking on the door 3 times, he waited before he heard the principal's voice that allowed him to enter. Please come in. He then entered the room and found the principal sitting at his desk with a tea set placed on his table. His expression remains the same, with a stoic smile, and he looks with his beady eyes. Midoriya, please come in. Nizu greets him. How's class these days? Having trouble with the subject? Not at all, he shortly replied. I know that I didn't have the chance to say this before, but I want to congratulate you for being the winner of the sports festival. It is quite the feat after all. Principal Nizu spoke. His voice sounded sincere without any hint of mockery or disdain. Thank you, Principal. He nods. Also, aside from being the first, this is the first time a student from a non-hero course has ranked this high. What a marvelous accomplishment. Really? The other time was with Eraserhead when he was young. I must say that you left quite the impression after, aside from being from the support course, you are also quirkless. This was the first time a quirkless participated in the sports festival, and you reached first place. Your display has actually made me think about a new possibility for the other students. Is that so? Correct, and I would like to offer you for the second time a seat at the hero course department. Izuku stared at him for a moment before he sighed, looking all tired with this song and dance. Didn't we have this discussion before? I'm not taking it before, and I'm not taking it now. We did, but I would like to offer it to you once more, without strings attached. Principal Nizu pressed on, trying to convince Midoriya to take the offer. Ever since the incident at the sports festival, he's been at the crossroads with the media, saying why Midoriya, who is the winner of the sports festival, didn't climb up to the hero course per UA regulation. Some say that he deserved the spot for his intelligence. Others says that his bravery and courage to stand up to his bully. Some even say that he deserved to be one, unlike Katsuki Bakugo, and should take his spot as an act of revenge. But Midoriya didn't take it. He chose not to climb to the hero course and remains in the support course instead, which the media saw as UA discriminating against quirkless people, mainly Midoriya. But Principal Nizu can't say that Midoriya rejects the offer. No sane person in Japan would reject the opportunity to enter the one course that everyone dreamed of in Japan. If he were to explain to the media, it would open up the floodgates. Not to mention that people have been fighting to get Midoriya into their school, which is concerning for him, seeing as Izuku Midoriya did have many reasons to switch schools after the news broke out, and with the fact that Katsuki Bakugo's presence in UA before has created an unwanted environment for him. Even if I did accept the offer, which I'm not saying I did. What makes you think I'll go to Class A and take your offer? Oh, the offer isn't to climb up to Class A, it's to Class B instead. Izuku perked his brow at the offer. Class B, as in the class where Kendo is. We know that you had some relationship problems with Class A. I don't know the full details about it, but the last thing I wanted was to create an uncomfortable environment in my school, especially for my students. I already talked to Vlad, and he's more than happy to add one more student to his roster. If you still want the offer, then I could set the paperwork straight away right now. We could discuss the terms, and you'll be good to go to move tomorrow morning. Izuku took a moment to consider before he stared at the principal with a suspicious look. You were pressured into this, weren't you? The media kept asking why I didn't get promoted to hero course student, and you offer me this agreement as a middle ground. If I didn't take the deal, then you would get questioned, and those reporters would haunt this school every day until you get them a legitimate answer. Principal Nizu looked impressed by how he managed to deduce that, but he silently thinks that it's better if he didn't figure it out at all, or perhaps not yet. From what he heard from Vlad, Midoriya is having a close relationship with the Class B students before the sports festival begins. He figured that he could use this information to close the deal right away. Thanks, but I won't take it. As soon as Principal Nizu heard those 5 words, he felt that his last chance to restore his school's reputation was left crumbling. With Midoriya rejecting the offer, the media will start to question the school's motive and open an investigation. It will be an open season for them. But I'm willing to compromise for something better. Nizu looked at his face, wanting to hear what this proposal that Izuku had in mind. I'm going to make a public statement for UA, declaring that I won't enter the hero course under my own wishes, not because of discrimination, so that the reporter and media will back away from the school, and you get to keep your school's reputation intact. I'll explain that it's always been my passion to enter UA, but as a support course and nothing more. In exchange, Principal Nizu isn't dumb. There's no way that he would do this huge request for free without getting something in return. There's no such thing as a free lunch after all. I'll let you know when I think of it. Izuku smirks as he utters those words. A carte blanche. Considered it a blank check, cashed at a time of my choosing. Now, this is something that he can't just agree to immediately. A blank check of favor means that Midoriya can ask him for anything, and he can't refuse it. And not knowing what it was is what makes this hard for him to accept, because the offer is made for him. How'd I know it won't be something I can't stomach? Principal Nizu asked. You don't, but those are my conditions, Izuku stated. You want them to back off, that's my price. Principal Nizu took a moment to consider if this is the price to make sure that his school is free from all the bad publicity. Then it's a heavy price. Being the principal of UA, he held certain power that the staff couldn't overrule, whether at a voting right or even an expulsion decision. And judging by how Midoriya harbors a strong feeling towards Class A, he could be the ace in the hole for the future. But he also had to consider his school reputation, which had been dragged into the mud. With no students wanting to enter for next year, and the current student wishes to leave, it's only a matter of time before everything comes down. Worst case scenario, there won't be a school within the next year if this drags on. After careful thought, Principal Nizu nods, accepting his demand. It's Tuesday afternoon, when most classes have already over for the day, and sometimes students are likely to go outside and hang out with their friends or head to the mall after having to take a test for today, trying to blow off some steam. But Shoto had other plans for today. He was sitting in a small, cozy family-owned restaurant. Luckily, lunch hour was hours ago, so the place was empty save for a couple of tables of old folks and an office worker who was busy with his laptop. Shoto took his seat at the corner booth in an empty part of the dining area. The parts of the booth sticking out from the wall had wood coming up out of the top and up into the ceiling. It was essentially a very small diamond room with an opening. It was a nice little place. Maroon walls with wood flooring, leather booths, and dim lighting, but the sun came through the front windows. There was a large open window where people could watch the chefs cook food. He was ordering his drink, and a few minutes later, the waitress brought their lavender tea, and he sent her off, telling her he'll call her over when he's ready to order. A few minutes later, the door is opened, and someone enters the cafe. It was a kid around Shoto's age. He's a young man of average height with shoulder-length magenta hair that is styled on either side, and sharp magenta-colored eyes that strike fear and trepidation into anyone he comes into contact with. In addition, he has a slim and muscular physique. He wears an attire that consists of a standard red jacket and an unbuttoned black shirt underneath without a tie. He glances around and sees Shoto sitting in the corner, and he approaches him and waves his hand. "Hey Shoto, long time no see." The kid greets Shoto, taking his seat across the table. "You look quite good yourself." "Yeah, you look good as well, Arita." Shoto nods at Arita. "I know. I heard that you got into UA. Man, you look good. Not to mention you entered the hero course like the rest of your whole class." Arita looked at him while watching the sports festival, as the son of Endeavor dominated the event. He called the waiter and ordered a black coffee. "Yeah, I'm grateful for it," Shoto replied. The waiter soon came and brought a cup of coffee to his table. "So what's going on? Because I know you didn't invite me just to catch up and buy me a cup of coffee." Shoto fixed his posture and leaned close to the table and spoke in a low tone. "I need your help." "What kind of help?" "'Cause truth be told, you're not exactly the person who could use a helping hand," Arita replied, remembering how the son of the number 2 hero is someone who can almost do anything and has everything with his connection and power. "The one with your kind of resources," Shoto spoke cryptically, which made Arita look confused. Arita perked his brow, taking a sip of his coffee. "I don't follow." Shoto leaned closer to the table and joined his hands before speaking in a low tone. "I need you to find any evidence related to Deku prior to the time he left the school until he resurfaces in UA. As soon as he heard the request, Arita looked at the moment before he put his cup back on the table and gave his answer. "No." Shoto looked at Arita with wide eyes. What do you mean, no? Your parents can do this. I know what they worked at. You told me about it before. You think I haven't heard about what happened to Bakugo? How people are trying to find out who enters which school these days, and they're looking for the word Aldera on our record?" Arita asked incredulously. "Why the hell would I touch your thing with a 10-foot pole?" "Because you owe me," Shoto answered. Arita looked at Shoto with an incredulous look on his face. "Oh, you got a lot of guts saying that to me, just because we were once friends back in junior high. All I'm asking is that you use your father's connection to find any intel related to Deku. You don't have to do it yourself, and if you were so scared to get caught, we'll leave your name out of the conversation and never talk about it. I don't care on how I do it. You think anyone in the city is going to take your request, no matter how much you pay them?" Arita asked, finding Shoto's request almost close to the impossible and ludicrous. He's the most talked-about person in the country, not some unnamed office worker in a corporate company. Someone snoops in his business, and every pair of eyes in the city will be looking for it. "Fine. You can give me their contact info instead, and I'll contact them myself if I have to." "Are you out of your mind? Those are confidential." Arita looked aghast. "I gave you their contact number. I might as well just call them myself, and I can't afford to look complicit with you, no matter how much you play that tiny violin." "This isn't a tiny violin." Shoto pleads. "Arita, please listen to me. You put Bakugo in prison, Shoto." Arita replied with a shaking tone, showing for the first time since they talked that he showed a genuine fear, and he did it with only a videotape and an article without so much as breaking a sweat. "And ever since then, people from our school have avoided you all since you had the biggest bullseye on your back. And the only reason why I took this meeting in the first place is because of what you and I used to be back in Aldera, but I'm not going to tank my whole life just because of a favor I owed you back in school." "Arita." "I'm sorry, Shoto. The answer is no." Arita gave his answer before he left his money to pay for his coffee and walked out of the cafe, leaving Shoto on his own. At Tartarus prison, Izuku arrived after taking a cab and getting out of the car before paying the driver. He stared at the black building in front of him, as this was the first time that he had been there in his life. Fences are placed around the area, with guards patrolling the facility 24/7. The guard came and ordered him to enter the security gate first, and he complied and signed a 4 before he entered. He walked over to the room where he saw about half a dozen phone booths, with one phone on the visitor's side and the other on the other side for the prisoner, divided by tempered glass. He took a seat, and just at the same time, the door from the prisoner's side opened, and he saw a familiar face coming from there. Katsuki walks out with a scowl on his face and cuffs on his hands. Adding to that, there's a quirk-canceling bracelet on his right hand preventing him from using his quirk inside. His messy, grayish prison uniform pairs with his ashen blonde hair. The prisoner sits in the phone booth before he picks up the telephone, and Izuku does the same. "Deku," Katsuki spat. "What took you so long to visit? I was dying to see your stupid face." He tried to provoke him, smiling in a twisted manner. "Me too. I really wanted to see you like this." He gestured to his situation, locked up in here. Rotten in your cell, completely and totally alone, without a single friend remaining. No one will love you. He grabs his phone out of his pocket and takes his picture in a gray prison jumpsuit. "For your classmate, figured they wanted to see how you're doing," Izuku replied, placing his phone back in his pocket. "You really think I'll be here long?" Katsuki chuckled. "Of course I do." Izuku nods. "Even if you get out, you'll be so old and weak that you will need diapers just to take a dump in the evening." "You son of a..." Katsuki slammed his table hard out of anger, which provoked the guards on his side. 3886, quiet down. The guard yelled. "You think that you won?" Katsuki asked. "All Might will get me out of here in no time. Those extras, they will come after you now, and they will show you what you are." Izuku softly chuckled before he leaned to the glass. "You still think that just because you're locked up in here, that I'm finished with you? What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about how I'm coming after everything you had in the outside world. How I'm going to relinquish you of everything you had from your reputation and your place in school. Now I'm coming for more. Starting with your name. What are you rambling about? Just this morning, I filed a lawsuit against every crime and misdemeanor you committed in the last 10 years. From simple bullying to illegal quirk usage, all were accounted for with a signed confession from me. And I stacked myself with a major law firm in Japan that money can't buy, and they're ready to keep you in this place forever until the day you die." "Nonsense. You don't have the money to do so," Katsuki yelled out. "There's no way a student can hire a lawyer, let alone someone as poor as Deku in the first place. I don't need to. They took this case free of charge." "What? A case that's busted through nationwide about a quirkless kid who got bullied for 10 years and caused a physical and psychological trauma, and the said bully enters the best hero school in Japan and faces off in the final of the biggest tournament in Japan." He whistled in admiration, knowing that he's standing in a good position. Any law firm in the world would want to take that slam dunk case within a heartbeat. "You think anyone would take that case?" "All Might would make sure." All Trash had his plate full right now. Izuku cuts him off, so full that he can't lend a hand to toss your case out of the window. "I had an army of lawyers whose sole purpose is to investigate everything that's happening, and they are ready to take this case to the court and prepared to sue you and your parents for what you've done." "Well, you mostly." Izuku points his finger at him, mentioning him. "What are you talking about? Didn't you get the memo? Your parents had disowned you 5 days ago." "Nonsense. They won't do that." Katsuki slammed his desk. 3886, quiet down. The guard yelled once more. "Believe what you want, but it's true." Izuku placed a document into the mail and slid it out to Bakugu's side. He yanked the document and opened it, and it shocked him by what was in it. It was a disowning paper. Flashback start. To disown, it would require a certain document for it to be legal in the eyes of the law, the lawyer says in a calming tone. A few paperwork, as well as a justification. No one disowns a child without an apparent reason. He spoke while explaining how the legal system doesn't grant such permission to anyone. Mitsuki and Masaru sit at the closed room door after their lawyer has explained how their son's action has put the family on the edge of bankruptcy. The stocks of their company took a nosedive ever since the news of Katsuki spread like wildfire, and having their son sit in Tartarus prison isn't exactly a good campaign. Not to mention that Katsuki's old childhood friend, the kid that he bullied for 10 years, had sued Katsuki for criminal action and tied the name of Bakugu's since Katsuki is a minor and didn't have a legal standing to bear the consequences, which falls on the parent. They know about the charges. They read them. Bullying, physical bullying, mental bullying, assault and battery, property damage, physical abuse, mental abuse, hate crime, vandalism, illegal quirk usage. The list goes on. And that only counted for what happened in UA and not the last 10 years. After reading the amount of the money that they sued them for, Mitsuki fainted right on the spot after realizing that they would have to file for bankruptcy and sell their home. She just can't believe that this is happening. However, this is a case in which the legal system will agree without a problem. A criminal as a son is frowned upon in our society, as you can see. The lawyer understands how tough it must be for the parent to bear the consequences for their son's action, especially when the fact that their life is on the line for something they didn't even do. Mitsuki's face looks too thin, sighing as she can't bring herself to look at some of the cases again. When I was still a teenager, I always wanted to have a child, a family that I could build together with my husband. I worked 90 hours a week, building my company from scratch and trying to earn as much money as possible for us all, for my children in the future. She sobs and needs a minute to continue her small tale. After some time, I got preggo, and Masaru was overjoyed. We all were. I feel like I could finally have the dream I've always wanted. Masaru then suggested calling him Katsuki. The lawyer doesn't know how to reply as he just sits and listens. I know that when Katsuki got his quirk, he started to change. He's become arrogant, didn't listen to what we had to say, and sometimes he shouts at us. But we all assumed that he was just determined to achieve his dream. We never got a call complaining about his behavior, so we just assumed that everything was okay. Turns out we were too blinded by what we all wanted to hear. Mitsuki then breaks down in tears as her husband holds her in his arms, as they know that this is hard for them to accept that their son has turned into a villain now. The lawyer takes the cue and gives the certificate of the legal procedure. All you have to do is sign in the lines. Mitsuki stared at the paper for one last time and signed her signature along with her husband's at their respective names. It's official. Katsuki Bakugu has been disowned. It feels almost like a joke. Legally speaking, their signatures will be enough to make sure Katsuki Bakugu won't have access to any money the parents have left, meaning that all the money that Katsuki is being sued for is for Katsuki alone to bear. Once the signing had been completed, the lawyer excused him, leaving the parent in the room alone to process the whole thing. He closed the door from the outside and descended the stairs when he met the sight of the green-haired kid in a black jacket towards the main entrance, all on his own. I did my part. Now I want what's mine, the lawyer said. Izuku lightly nodded and showed a brown folder in his hand and handed it to the lawyer. Thanks. Now your affairs are safe. Flashback end. If you're wondering why your parents did it, it's because the lawsuit my lawyers made was targeted against the Bakugus, and that includes your parents. Izuku talked as he explains of what he did to them. Because of what you did, you dragged them to the bottom and forced to wipe your, but with their money and inheritance. They realized that it's your thing that they cleaned up, and they cut you off and let you take the bucket of water. You're lying. You're lying. Katsuki shouts, and the guards who had had enough decide to bring his friend from the other side of the door, telling him to bring him back to his cell. Shout all you want, but even if you do get out of here, the charges against you are going to be massive, so you will be buried by debt for the rest of your miserable life. Izuku replied, looking at his expression filled with anger. While you spend your life inside a cell, my lawyers will make their mission to put you in a lifetime punishment that you won't even get out of. You think that I'm afraid of a bunch of middle-aged men with a three-piece suit? I think you will be after a month inside these walls. Katsuki raised his brow. A month? What's going to happen in a month? Izuku stared at him for a moment before he got up from his seat, now answering his question. Goodbye, Bakugu. Izuku walks away and heads to the door, not turning back as Katsuki slams his desk and smacks against the glass, shouting his name. Don't turn your back on me, DKU. Look at me. Look at me when I'm talking to you. I said look at me, you worthless, quirkless piece of trash. But no matter how loud he shouted, Izuku didn't even blink or turn his head against him and made himself out of there while Katsuki was being dragged by the guard to get back to his cell. All Might sits at his office working on the details for the internship for Izumi on what's about to come. He knows that once the sports festival has ended, it's time for the internship to begin, where the Hero Agency will start taking notes and offer the students for internship at the Hero Agency. He figured that he'd try to offer Izumi an internship at his agency, hoping that she could benefit from it and learn about One for All, but she had other plans that did not involve him. Ever since the news leaked about young Bakugu's case, where he mentioned that he wanted to send his former son into his demise, Izumi had wanted nothing of him at all. He tried to explain that young Bakugu is just trying to shift the blame, but Izumi didn't believe him for a second and decided to walk out of the house to live somewhere that he doesn't even know about. He tried to ask her friends about it, but she had been quiet ever since and didn't want to start a conversation with the class after knowing what happened. Of course, the media didn't know that young Bakugo mentioned his father is actually him, but for those who know about it, they had all lost their respect towards him and had nothing to do with him at all. That's why he wanted to offer an internship at his agency, because he tried to reach Gran Torino about it, and he flatly rejected. Not to mention that he's kept getting a call from Tartarus prison saying that one of the prisoners inside is wanting to talk to him. He didn't need to know who that was, judging by the shouting and cursing tone coming from the other end of it. But he can't be seen or here to intervene with young Bakugo case at all. Ever since his supposed son had exposed young Bakugo's actions, the school had been under the microscope by the Board of Education, monitoring the staff and the students' activity, not leaving anything out of detail. Of course, the principal had kept his identity a secret, but so far about lending a hand, he was getting the short stick. He can't be seen to be interfering with the case in any way. Had he gone to approach it as Toshinori Yagi, it would only send him under investigation before the board learns that he secretly is All Might. But if he tried to intervene as All Might, then people would see that the #1 hero is pardoning his action, which would only be seen as something negative that could affect his reputation. So he was forced to abandon the case for now, until the situation cools down. Right now, he didn't know what to do. He needs to reconnect with his successor, but he didn't want to do anything with him ever since the Izuku situation, which caused a rift between them. And as much as he hates it, his only option to be at his successor's good grace is to make up with his adopted son, whom he once disowned and tried to sabotage. But if that's all it takes to actually reconnect with his successor, then that's all it's going to take. In UA, around the evening, everyone in Class 8 gathers in the class after the school is over, all discussing their current topic. Except for Izumi and Momo, who left the first thing the bell had rang, along with Shoto, who left in the afternoon to take care of the situation. Everyone is gathered to discuss what their situation is going to be after the whole reveal. They gathered in the class with Ida taking the podium to lead the discussion and wanted to hear about the class opinion. So far, they have learned that Bakugo had been sent to juvenile prison about 2 weeks ago, and Deku had been the topic of everyone's mind as they were all racking their brain to answer one single question. Who is Deku's next target? Some speculate that it's going to be Katsumi, being her sister of Bakugo, and not to mention that he confronted her about it when she found out about him pulling out from the hero course. Others speculates that it's going to be Shoto, since he's one of the main bullies back in Aldera, and he too had been looking for a beef with the dual-haired kid since the start. While some choose to believe that it's going to be Uraraka, seeing how the pink cheek girl once tricked him to pretend to like him, only for her to trick Deku in the end and make fun of him in the entire school. The door is opened, and Shoto walks in, and everyone has their attention towards him and halts their discussion to hear the news from him. "Shoto, please tell me Arida went for the idea?" Kirishima asked, hoping to get some news out of him. He didn't. Shoto shakes his head in disappointment. "F it," Kirishima cursed. "We're going to drown without any help." "Then we'll get help," he answered. Kirishima walks by Shoto's direction and asks, "Well, did you tell him that we're going to leave his name out of the topic?" "I did. The problem is that everyone in our alumni is so busy covering their own back that they won't even lift a finger just to help us." Shoto explained the conversation he had with Arida moments ago. "Forget about lifting a finger, they won't even return our call." "What about Yubi, the one who always hangs out with Bakugo in the first year?" Uraraka mentioned the boy with a finger quirk who used to hang out with him. "He's not responding to my text or call." I think he's blocking my number, maybe even all of our numbers right now. Shoto mentioned remembering how he called his phone multiple times, and there was no answer at all. Now that he looks at it, most of the Aldera alumni had cut off their contact info, from social media to even a phone number. I might have something, but it's not something good. Ida came with a stack of paper in his hand. His face looked uncomfortable, not want to say. What is it? Uraraka asked. I read from the report that my brother's agency, his agency, is being tasked to secure the road for the transport of Bakugu when he was sent to the juvie. Ida help explains as the class continued to listen to him, mainly Katsumi, but after less than 48 hours. He overheard from his friend in the other agency that the prison where they transported Bakugu had a visit from Tartarus prison van, and the prisoner had missed one prisoner from the juvie, and Tartarus has added one in the same day. So they're transporting a prisoner. Don't people do that all the time? Uraraka asked what's on everyone's mind, but Shoto, who comes from the hero family, knows what Ida is talking about. They transporting Bakugu. He's in Tartarus as of 2 weeks ago. Ida replied. What? How is that possible? Katsumi shouted, grabbing Ida's collar shirt in anger. How can his brother be staying at Tartarus, where all the dangerous criminals are staying, and be locked up right now? I don't know, but the Bureau of Prisons had a right to transfer a prisoner from one point to another. Maybe they find that Bakugu's action inside the juvenile prison is enough to give the warden his right to a prison transfer. Jaira joins in and asks, what's the cause of it? For someone to be transferred? Could be anything. Ida mentioned quarrel between inmates, disciplinary issues, safety concern for the other inmates, court appearance, sentencing progression, or blackmailing. Katsumi suspected. Ida looked at Katsumi for a moment with a surprised look before he replied. Katsumi, I know that you think Deku might have bribed the prison to transfer your brother to Tartarus, but this is Deku we're talking about. The guy is almost as noticeable as All Might these days, and they won't be able to say that they didn't know the guy. But how else did he do that? It doesn't make any sense that my brother got put in juvenile prison one day, and he got shifted to Tartarus on the next day. The class began to rack their brain, try and come up with a legitimate and reasonable excuse, but they came up empty. There's no way that Deku somehow had the power of Warden of Tartarus to order a prisoner transfer, but from the fact itself, it seems to be the most reasonable choice here with the wildest imagination. I hate to say it. Maybe the transfer had nothing to do with Deku at all, Siro said. You're kidding me? He's the one who got all the benefit out of it. Katsumi argued. I know, but we're talking about a government bureaucracy here. I'm just saying that Deku is not the only one who wants to see your brother down. Siro countered. And as much as Katsumi didn't want to admit it, he's right. Ever since the news broke out, people have been grilling her brother and had rioted, saying that Bakugu deserved to be put in Tartarus and not a juvenile center, saying that he's just a villain in disguise. People have been asking for quite some time why Bakugu is receiving a light sentence by being put inside a juvenile center, considering what he did and the level of his crime. He might be a minor, but the crimes he committed were at an adult level. Some even say that he deserves the death penalty. So you're saying that my brother deserves to be shot down? Katsumi angrily shouts. To be put on the gallows? No, Ida interjects, but considering the number of options they got for him, they might see this as a middle ground. But the class knows that this middle ground Ida is talking about is nothing but a soft way to say the cold, hard truth. Whatever fate that's waiting for them is going to be the same as Bakugu, either rot in Tartarus or even spend the rest of their life in juvenile prison at best. So what happens now? Hagakure asked, looking around the room, hoping someone could tell her in the class. What happens now? A voice came from the door as it opened from the outside, showing Isizuku entering the class with a smile on his face after he had just visited Katsuki in the prison. Deku, Katsumi spats. What the hell are you doing here? I'll tell you what happens now. Your scumbag friend is finished. Done. You understand? Isizuku enters while slowly walking towards a classroom. I will own him when this is over. Every yen he earns is mine. Any place he goes, anywhere he turns, I'm going to be there grabbing my share. He'll be scrubbing toilets in Kabukicho for scraps, and I'll be standing over him to get my cut every day for the rest of his waking hours. He'll see me when he wakes up in the morning and when he crawls to sleep in whatever rat hole's left for him after I shred his house down. I will haunt his crusty, but forever until the day he sticks his hand on his head and pulls the trigger just to get me out of his head. That's what happens next. You think you could just come here and threaten us all without getting away, without a scratch? Kirishima was ready to pounce in his own way. Yeah, Izuku replied, because if I got so much of a paper cut, they will start investigate this whole thing, and the first one that's on the list is going to all of you who the most obvious suspect considering the ringleader is put here in the first day. Your days are all numbered anyway. It's only a matter of time before you all end up in a cell next to him. The question is, who should I send first? Izuku looks over to the class, knowing that they too are now in the crosshairs after Katsuki is put to prison. Now there's no bigger target left that they could skate to. The question is, who's it going to be? What? It's 9 o'clock in the morning, and everyone has already entered the class and resumed the school activity as per usual. Students were taking a test, while some others were discussing their career in the future, while some were at the gym training with their quirks. Even the staff were all busy preparing for the question for the upcoming test and grading homework, with the exception of one particular teacher who was shouting in front of the principal's face just now after hearing what the principal had just brought the news on the table and after watching the statement that Midoriya had made on the news of why he's interested to entering the hero course. Principal, what were you thinking? You can't trust him to sign something so important. Tashinori rambled. I don't want to discuss this, Tashinori. Nizu spoke tiredly. He was willing to go to the media and clear our school reputation. The press backed away from our front gate. Students' applications for next year are pouring in, and our name has been fixed. It was a good deal, and it's going to come back to bite us in the future. I'm pulling the deal. Tashinori walks to the door before Principal Nizu stops him. You're not pulling anything, Tashinori. Nizu spoke up, stopping him in his tracks. I had a deal with Midoriya on the table, and I'm not going to break it because you say so. We can't trust him at all. After the stunt he pulled with young Bakugu, there's no way that we can trust him not to do anything that would damage us or the student's career in the future. It was a take it or leave it offer. Principal Nizu states, I had 1 minute. I want to be done with the press and the media, so I took it. And last I checked, you're the one who gave him the reason to threaten me in the first place. Had you come clean about that boy's past, we won't be in this mess. Tashinori held his silence, knowing that the principal was still suspecting him of knowing about Bakugu's past. Principal, we can't let All for One get hold of this school. I'm telling you that we need to cut young Midoriya right now. And how is that going to go for us? Good morning, Midoriya. Thank you for helping us restore the school's reputation, but I'm going to have you leave this school and never come back. Principal Nizu pretends to show himself to be Midoriya in the conversation that's not going to happen. If I kicked Midoriya out of the school, it would put us back to where we started, and I'm not going to tank this school reputation based on your words without any evidence. But leave my office, Tashinori, and don't come back for a while. Principal Nizu replied, kicking him out of the office and their conversation. Shoka woke up from her room moments ago. Today is Sunday, and there's no school, which means that they can relax and enjoy the weekend. She walked out and headed to the kitchen after barely getting any sleep. After her group chat was filled with comments from Deku's statement from yesterday, explaining why he chose not to enter Hero Course. She knows that something must be going on for him to not make it to the Hero Course in the first place. As far as she knew, it had always been his dream, but now here he is, standing in the same school, entering the support course and making a name on his own. She didn't even know why he would reject the offer to enter the hero course itself. For what she heard, the offer isn't even for him to go to their class, but a class B instead, and he still rejected that. She yawned while walking before he heard shouting come from his brother's room. Son of A. She jumped in shock at his curse word before she slowly pulled the door and found her brother was awake and sitting at his desk while working on his laptop, facing away from the door. He's been working non-stop trying to get any evidence of Deku that he could use to get kicked out of the school. Shoto, is something wrong? Shoka asked, finding herself worried about her brother. From the eye bag under his eyes, it looks like he's been awake for quite some time. Shoto turned and saw his sister standing in front of his door before he pulled something from the laptop and showed it to her. It was a flash disk. See this? Shoto showed the flash disk in his hand close to her. It contains everything on God's green earth there is to know about Izuku Midoriya, from his perfectly shaped diamond freckle to his stupid notebook that he used to carry around like Linus's blanket. And there's no dirt on him. Shoto rose from his seat in anger. There's not one criminal incident he's been involved in. There's no proof he's associated with bad people. No violation from the police or heroes. No sighting from the media or a newscaster. Nothing. Shoto, did you hear me? If Deku did something in the past 15 years from when he came out from the womb to running away from his home, it is buried so deep, we'll never even see the top of it, let alone get to the bottom of it. Shoto, Shoka called him once more, but he ignored her again. Damn it, it doesn't make any sense. He rants, pacing around his room before taking a seat. He lives away from his parent as a runaway child, then 10 months later, he pops out and had all this skills and cunning he never showed before, and next thing we know, he's become someone that we should be scared. He's got no bank account, no savings, no known relative that he could go to, which doesn't add up. Shoto, look at me. Shoka shakes him out of his ranting to get a better look at her expression. You're obsessed. This whole Deku situation has got you spinning out of control, and if you don't stop, it's not going to be healthy for you. Well, I don't care, Shoto replied hastily. Shoto, damn it, Shoka, he's coming after us. Shoto shouts, he's coming after us. After what happened with Katsuki at the sports festival, I confronted him before, and it got me thinking if Katsuki were out of the picture, then it's obvious that he's going to go after me or you, and I can't let that happen. You don't know that. Maybe he'll go after Katsumi or Kirishima instead. Yes, we do, Shoto replied. Other than Bakugu, I was the main bully to him back in Aldera. And now, with Katsuki's gone, he's going to be focusing on you instead. Shoka realized what her brother was talking about. Shoto grabs his sister's hand and looks at her in the eye. I'm not going to let Deku get the better of me or us. So I need to stop him now before he tries anything that can put you in crosshairs. What's going on here? Shoto's sister, Fuyumi, came wearing an apron as she overheard noise coming from Shoto's room. It's fine, sis. She looked at them for a moment before she dismissed it. Okay then, come on. I made breakfast. Both siblings nodded before they walked out of the room and had their breakfast, but Shoto still couldn't brush off what he had in mind. Deku must have learned everything there is to know about them, and he knows more about them than themselves. He's been doing so in the last 10 years with that crappy notebook of his, and he's learned everything there is to know about them. So he needs to balance the scale in their favor. Izuku stood in front of the station, looking at his watch. He glances around, hoping that people won't recognize him. He wears a uniform consisting of a black jacket with a white t-shirt and black skinny-fit jeans. To make sure that he's not recognizable, he changed his hairstyle to an undercut for a fresh new start. He was standing in front of the statue near the station with many people passing around. A familiar voice entered Izuku's eardrum, as though rending apart the crowd. Izuku, turning his head towards the direction of the sound, Kendo came with a smile that was brighter than the sun. She was not wearing her usual school uniform, but an attire consisting of a white shirt with a denim jacket and hot pants. It looks like it was tailor-made for her. Kendo. Just as Izuku stared in a daze, Kendo walked by and came to meet him. Sorry, I was coming late and the train was delayed for some reason. Kendo excused. It's okay, Izuku replied. Here he was with Kendo on Sunday afternoon, just the two of them after she invited him to hang out on the weekend. Now, when she said hanging out, he figured that it would be together with the whole class or just her friends, but what he didn't expect was that it would be just the two of them. Where are we going? Izuku asked, having no idea about their plan since she's the one who invited him. No idea. We're just going to wing it, she said with a level of confidence that Izuku would have found amusing. But he had a feeling that this was going to be an interesting day. The two of them were currently wandering the streets of downtown Mizudafu. Izuku was still trying to wrap his head around the whole situation that he's on a date with a pretty girl. People kept glancing around in their direction, seeing the two of them walking on the crossroad. So where are we going? Izuku asked his orange-haired partner, who was still leading him through the city streets. To the arcade, Kendo replied with no hesitation. What? There's an arcade a couple of blocks away from here that just opened up. We're going to go there and have a fun time. Plus, I hear there's one of those old school motorcycle racers, and I really wanted to try it out. Oh yeah, you did say that your parents make custom motorcycles, right? They sure do. But my dad won't let me ride any of them because I'm still too young, he said. All right. They entered the arcade and tried out a couple of new games there, and some were retro ones, coming from the pre-era court game, and had their time together, and it took her by surprise that he dominated the punching arcade machine and score higher than her despite she's been learning martial art ever since she was in junior high. Once their business at the arcade was concluded, the two young heroes in training found themselves once again aimlessly walking the streets of Mizutofu. The two had a pretty good time at the arcade. Aside from running into a few fans who had questions about what happened at the sports festival, everything was going relatively smoothly. Wow, that was pretty fun if you asked me, Izuku replied, after having quite some fun for himself. I know, I still can't believe that you dominated that punching game, Kendo commented, still can't believe that his score is around 100 points higher than hers. What can I say? I like to exercise a couple of times, he shrugged. You know, I still can't believe that you rejected the chance to enter the hero course. Setsuna even thought that you were mad rejecting that offer, and I can swear that Monoma is ready to pull his hair out after hearing about it, Kendo said, remembering how her class reacted to the news. Well, I don't have the ambition to become a hero to begin with. I find that support is where my passion lies. Still, it's such a shame, you know. We could be classmates and hang out in the class together. Even Vlad-sensei sounds dejected when he heard that you rejected the offer. If you wanted us to hang out, you're more than welcome to visit the studio. You know that I'm always there. Izuku responds, and the two of them laugh. They continue to walk before he glanced and felt someone following behind them. Kendo might not have realized it, but he knows well enough to know when he was being followed after so long. Is it a reporter? No, they won't be this bold. Maybe a gossiper? He looked in the reflection of a parked car in front of him and saw someone dressed in a white V-neck t-shirt and a blue denim jacket paired with black pants. But the one trait that he recognized is the dual-colored hair consists of red and white. Shoto? Why is he following me here? Izuku thought, but kept his cool, not wanting Kendo to find out. He figured that perhaps Shoto is trying to tail him after he made his bold statement to the class that he's coming after them, but he didn't think that he would get stuck this early on. Thinking of losing him, he offered her to get something to eat since it was time for lunch, and she took his offer. The duo made their way over to a small cafe not too far away from the school. Unbeknownst to the two of them, when they walked in the door, they caught the eye of a few onlookers who recognized their faces. Hey, isn't that Midoriya over there? Yeah, it is. Who's that girl that he's with? I think she goes to UA too. Do you think that she's his classmate? Probably. You know, the pictures don't do him justice. He's kind of swole. So is the girl. Wow, how'd she get so lucky? Why'd all the hot guys have to be straight? Maybe he's just into masculine chicks? They heard none of that, though, and once the two of them finally sat down and waited for their drink to arrive and saw Shoto sitting across the table, 3 rows behind him, but he didn't notice that Izuku already knew and continued with his conversation with Kendo anyway. The waiter came and delivered their order and placed it on the table. Kendo took the opportunity to finally get to a topic that she had been wanting to touch on the entire day. Hey, Izuku, I know this might not be a good time to do this, but I had some questions that I wanted to ask you. The girl looked at him. What is it? He glanced up at her from his phone. It's about the broadcast. Oh. Izuku's face became downcast. He put his phone down on the table to look at her. If you don't want to talk about it, I understand. It's fine. Honestly, I think talking about it to someone will help me out. He told her. He knew that keeping everything that he was feeling bottled up wasn't going to do him any good. So what did you want to ask me? Honestly, I don't know where to begin. Kendo leaned back in her chair. There wasn't an easy way to start out this conversation. I guess I'll just start by asking how long it's been going on with you and the class, say. I guess since the beginning. They had this belief that they think people with a weak quirk or someone who doesn't have one shouldn't be a hero. And you said that you were in Aldera. Then is the whole school turning a blind eye? Yeah, they all silently supported Bakugo under the excuse that he could bring fame for them. But we all know that Bakugo won't lift a finger to help someone, let alone his old stomping ground. I know, Kendo replied, knowing full well about the loud blonde attitude well enough. And the whole class? What about Yagi and Yaoyorozu? Izuku held a complicated look on his face. Those two were different. I can tell that they were sorry, but I can't just bury everything, even though they were more than ready to accept if their career ended. And Bakugo, he's the main one, the ringleader of all of it. Izuku said, he's never going to show remorse no matter what. I know that full well that he would rather give his life than admit he's wrong. Thank God that he's already gone. I really wish that I could punch him in his smug face after what he did at the tournament. Take a number. Izuku joked. Besides, you'll have to fight for it with Monoma and Tetsu after what he did to you. They both had a good laugh about it before Kendo silently put her hand on his, and Izuku blushed at her gesture. But seriously, if you ever need someone to talk to, you can come to me. I'll be more than happy to do so. Thanks, Izuku replied, blushing at her hand touching his. Kendo seems to realize it and quickly pulls her hand. I'll be right back, she said shortly, glancing over at the stairwell leading to the bathroom. I need to go to the bathroom. With that small explanation, she began to walk away from the table, pausing to let a waitress holding a tray of drinks move in front of her with an awkward smile before continuing to walk forward, eventually reaching the stairs and quickly climbing up them. Izuku glanced at the door, where Kendo had just left, and noticed that Shoto was still following him and sitting in the same cafe as he was. He decided that it's time to lose him and picked up his phone and dialed a number, waiting for the ring, and heard a voice. Yes, hi. Is this the Mizuta Fuhiro call center? I want to file a report of a crime that's happening right now. I'm at Haido Yodoko, 2 Chom -3 -2, and I want to report a very suspicious man who's lurking in a cafe. He spoke over the phone, filing a report. He's sitting in a cafe where I'm at, and he's been staring at a particular kid for a very long time with his girlfriend. I think that he's stalking her. A dual-haired kid in a white shirt and blue jacket with black pants around high school age. I think it's one of the contestants of the sports festival in UA. The operator complies and says that they will notify a local hero in the area. Thank you. Thank you so much. If you would, I would appreciate it. He hangs up the call before he sees Kendo coming later on, and Izuku speaks. Hey, what do you say that we get out? How about we get something to eat, perhaps? Yeah, sure. That would be great. Kendo replied, looking at the clock on her phone, and saw that it was about to reach night, and they hadn't had dinner. They both headed to the cashier and paid for their drinks and headed out to the door. Shoto, who was sitting behind the door, saw that they were about to leave. He was ready to follow and leave a stack of cash on the table before the door was open, and 2 pro heroes entered the cafe and held Shoto in their hands, apprehending him. What's going on? Shoto asked, wondering why he was being held. We received a report saying that you were harassing one of the customers by stalking them. We would like you to answer a few questions, if that's okay. I didn't do anything. We'll be the judge of that, son. Izuku, who's already left the cafe, could only smile knowing that Shoto is about to be questioned by the pros, which is going to bring attention to his parents in UA and eventually to his class as well. Eventually, the two of them finished their dinner at a ramen store that he remembered Tetsu had recommended to him and began making their way back to the station to accompany her. Seeing as they still had a good hour left before the station closed, Kendo suggested that they walk the rest of the way to burn off all the ramen that they managed to scarf down. After about 30 minutes of strolling around and taking in the sights that the city had to offer, they found themselves on the main road that led directly back to the station where they met this afternoon. The area was pretty much deserted, except for a few people who were still lingering around. But for the most part, the two students had their privacy as they walked along the concrete path. Kendo was glad that she opted for her sneakers instead of the god-awful high heels that Setsuna tried to convince her to wear. Walking around this place would have been a nightmare otherwise. The two of them engaged in some pretty casual conversation along the way. Nothing major, just more talk about stuff like school and their own personal interests. It wasn't long before Izuku and Kendo found themselves near the train station. There was a coffee shop a little further down the road, and the orange-haired teen had a craving for a nice warm cup in her hands. I had a really great time today, Izuku. Kendo gave the boy a smile. Me too. He smiled back. We should hang out again. Maybe we can go to that cafe we just passed by. Are you sure? Midoriya gave her a surprised look. Of course. I like hanging out with you. Really? Yeah. And aside from today, I haven't been on a date in a while, so I'm definitely looking forward to the next one. Yeah. I'll see you around. Have a good rest of your evening, bye. The girl ran off towards the train station. Yeah, bye. Izuku waved his hand goodbye and just realized what Kendo just said moments ago before she left. And aside from today, I haven't been on a date in a while, so I'm definitely looking forward to the next one. Izuku's eyes widened, and his face held a blank expression after hearing those sentences repeated inside his mind just now. Is this counted as a date? Prison does suck. That's the first thing that comes to mind after he spent almost 2 weeks alone in this place. Katsuki had spent his regular day trying to continue his day like any other before this whole thing hit him. He wakes up, heads to the cafeteria, trains at the gym, eats, showers, and heads to bed. His mind is clouded with anger ever since Deku came to visit him in prison before, telling him lies about how his parents had disowned him. What nonsense! They won't dare to disown him. And if they did, then all the more reason for them to crawl back and realize their mistake. He sits at the cafeteria eating his breakfast of plain porridge and scoops of the bowl with no one sitting at the table, seeing how they wonder at how someone of high school student age is sitting in Tartarus prison. Then, the villain Martis was the first to stick his nose in Katsuki's business. He was told before that Martis is the boss of the prison, saying how he was a notorious boss outside of the prison and ruled half of the underworld, shipping delivery for illegal goods. He was trying to intimidate him. Katsuki wouldn't be scared of a fat, middle-aged man in his 40s with his ugly face sticking close to him like his old man. He wasn't going to be intimidated by that, which of course is why brought back up. Unlike Katsuki, he hasn't had a lot of friends to back him up. What are you looking at, dipshit? Katsuki asked, and he got his answer in a full swing of Marta's fist, aiming straight at his face. His nose got bloody, and he could feel his face like it had been hit by a barrel or something. Katsuki got a few good punches in, but a 6-on-1 fight with no quirks wasn't something he was going to win. The guard were also conveniently absent for this beatdown. They continued to gang him up and throw a punch with no signs of stopping. His face got bloody, and one of the goons stepped onto his hand as he tried to make his way out, but he failed. He could feel that his hand was crushed, judging by how hard the guy was stomping his feet on him. Arg, come on, brat. Get up. Martis called out. I heard you were a hotshot out there. Katsuki ignored the villain's gloating monologue and spat vital fluid at the prick. The ugly idiot stilled dramatically, and the next thing he knew, he saw a fist flying toward his face, and all he could see is nothing but darkness. Sipping his 4th cup of coffee of the morning, Aizawa still felt as if he was not awake enough to deal with the day. Classes started in a few minutes, and he knew that today was going to be a special kind of tiresome. He is sure that the events of the sports festival are still fresh in his students' minds, and they will likely have questions for him. Questions that, likely, he won't have the answers to. He quickly sucked down his last cup of coffee, barely savoring the dark roast, as he turned the corner towards the familiar classroom he had come to know. Taking a deep breath and preparing himself, he opened the door, hearing all talking cease as soon as he walked in. Good morning. They stay silent, and Aizawa takes his place at his desk, scanning over the students in the classroom. Looking over at the students, many behaved normally, such as Shoji, Ojiro, and Jairu. However, he did notice that many of the students seemed off, even quieter than before. Shoto Todoroki had his head down, glaring at his left hand like it was cursed or something. His posture was rigid and tense, unwavering in his turmoil. His gaze was intense, but conflicted. Aizawa had heard from Tsukachi, who overheard from the other station, saying that Shoto is being arrested for a day after a report was made about how he was stalking someone at a cafe, which gave him a headache in the morning. Right next to him, he saw Yorozu, slumped in her chair, very uncharacteristic of her normally perfect posture. She hid her emotions well, but Aizawa could tell that she was upset and not talking to anyone in the class, mostly about some argument he overheard during the sports festival. Katsumi is shaking with anger. Her sound of gritting her teeth can be heard even before he enters the class. Knowing that she is somehow pissed and ready to explode, her body shakes furiously as she taps her feet on the floor. Aizawa could not tell if she was shaking out of fear or anger. Izumi, however, found it a much easier book to read. Her gaze was locked firmly over to the front of her desk, glaring at the student sitting second to the front. Her jaw was clenched, and her eyes held a fire unlike anything that Aizawa had seen from the usually calm, collected Izumi. Her gaze locked on Katsumi, who wished that she was born with a heat vision quirk, wanting to bore a hole in her head. In the far corner of the classroom, Uraraka seemed to act fidgety, like she had just gotten caught shoplifting the entire shelf at some supermarket or something. She looked scared, judging by how she tapped her feet furiously on the floor, much louder than Katsumi did. The student who shocked Aizawa the most was Ida, who sat in his normal seat. Normally, he would sit in a straight posture diligently, but instead, he's behaving like a stone. His shoulders were tense and hunched, as his gaze fired down to his desk. He did not stand to greet Aizawa, a behavior that he had come to reluctantly enjoy. Instead, he stayed seated, barely even acknowledging the teacher's presence. "Okay, class," Aizawa began. "Today will be somewhat unique." He pulled out a small remote, turning on the projector. As I'm sure most of you know, the sports festival is a great way to present yourselves to the public, but also to advertise for internships. He turns back towards the class, his expression bored. "I'm sure that you all can gather this, but your first internship is very important. It is a good way to evaluate your flaws and to improve yourselves as heroes, something that all of you need to work on," Aizawa said as he pressed a button, and a large screen appeared showing the result. A list popped up on the board, with the vast majority of the class receiving at least a dozen or so internships. However, there was a clear bias toward a few names. Izumi received the most, with a few thousand internship offers, followed behind by Shoto and Shoka, who received a bit over 1,000. Kirishima received several hundred, along with Uraraka, and Ida only got around less than 70 after his humiliating loss. And Katsumi received less than Ida himself, with only 5 offerings, being her name is associated with Bakugu in the first place. For those of you who didn't get the offer, we had a list of heroes that were willing to take you guys, so not to worry, Aizawa told him, but he didn't mention that the number of it is pretty small since the class got caught up with the scandal with Bakugu, so the number isn't that high. They spent the rest of the lesson looking at the requested internship. Most of them discuss whether they go to a certain agency along with their friends until the bell rings, signaling the end of the class. Remember, you only had 3 days to decide on who you would be interning with. "I want the form to be collected at my desk 3 days from now," Aizawa said as he left the classroom. Once he left the class, people started talking to discuss about their internship plan on who goes where. Most of them were contemplating their choices, or in Katsumi's situation, their choice on where to go. Since most of them didn't pass the top 16 of the sports festival, they had a hard time getting an internship. Izumi scribbled on her option. Looking through the list, there's the first option for him placed on the top of the pile from her father's agency, and she immediately rejected it, not in the mood for some father-daughter moment that he's concocted behind her. She looked through the pile, and there were tons of options left for her. There's Best Jeanist, Mirko, Gang Orca, Fat Gum, Ryukyu, and many renowned pro heroes. But she is still in a dilemma about whom she should go to. She then thought carefully about her choice of what they could offer her. For example, if she went to Mirko's agency, she could learn new moves that could help her with One for All and improve her combat skills. Then there's Best Jeanist, who could help her with assessing the situation more clearly. Or she could go to Fat Gum to help her with storing power for her One for All. Ajiru screamed in shock. Everyone stopped, moving when the rocker girl let out a yell and quite literally jumped on the floor. "Gyro, what's wrong?" Kaminari asked with much concern in his voice. "Spider," the girl whispered while pointing to her bag. Curious to see what kind of creature could scare her, Kaminari decided to take a peek and pulled out a cartoonishly big rubber spider, revealing it to the rest of the class. For what it was worth, the thing did look real enough that a quick glance would make anyone jump out of their shoes. "What the hell?" Gyra questioned. "That's the 5th time we got pranked this week." Ciro groaned, picking the spider and tossing it out to the trash can. "Is there something going on or something? Maybe they just wanted to mess with us or something." After that jump scare, she decided to take the stack of paper and review it at the library instead, where it's quiet. She didn't want to choose someone just because they were famous or high-ranking. After taking the paper, she heads out of the class and goes ahead. Izuku sits at his desk, looking at the offering letter that was stacked against him on his table. Power Loader had just announced this year's internship, and for support core staff, that means people are coming to recruit the first-year students for some on-site job sessions. He had many offers lying to him, as all of them are varied from a support company to even a business venture, from Detnerat, Feel Good Inc., to even some large companies out of the state, such as David Shield. But the one company that he had his eyes on is the one that's coming from a company he had never heard of. Its name is DM. DM stands for Deus Ex Machina, or known as the God of Machine. It's a company that provides support items for some major heroes, mainly for All Might. He knows it since he has done his research about it before. He left in wonder why his stepfather had offered him an internship there in the first place, seeing as he is most likely responsible for what happened to the destruction of his gear back in the sports festival. And then his answer is revealed from the intercom. Will Izuku Midoriya please report to the teacher's office? Hearing his name being mentioned, Izuku gets up, wondering what that could be. He walks out of his class, headed to the office, wanting to get this over with right away. He walks out of the corridor by himself, with no sight of a student anywhere. On his way, he was met with the sight of his stepfather waiting in the corridor along with Shoto, Shoka, and Katsumi waiting for him. You came. All Might spoke. I've been expecting you. I don't like being summoned how you please, Izuku replied coldly. We need to talk. No, we don't. I'm afraid you don't have a choice, boy. All Might grips his wrist, preventing him from walking out of him. Izuku looked at the moment before he yanked his grip and followed them from behind, seeing how this won't stop until he followed their demand. They entered his private office, and all 5 of them took a seat, and All Might transformed back to his skeleton figure of his stepfather. Look at that. The fake had shown himself. Izuku responded, seeing his father revert to his normal figure. Can I offer you a beverage? A snack? Toshinori asked, trying to show some hospitality. Oh, actually, yeah. I'll take a nice tall glass of Swallow a Bag of Pages. Izuku replied, showing his distrust. If his stepfather can rig the sports festival however he pleases, he won't touch anything he offered with a 10-foot pole. Watch it, Deku. Katsumi spat. All right, seeing that you didn't come here for some snack, here's what I came here to do. Toshinori slides a document into the table, and he picks up. Izuku read the paper, showing it to be his settlement paper. What's this? Izuku asked, waving the piece of paper in the air. A settlement. I offered to pay you for 200 million yen, along with a written recommendation letter from me to any school in Japan lasting for the next 5 years, and a 3-year exclusive contract for working at any support company you wanted, including the offer my associate sent to you from DM, and you're going to sign it. In exchange, a written testimony, saying that whatever happened in the sports festival has been nothing but a fabricated lie, and you apologize in public for what happened to young Bakuga's career, and you'll leave UA. Izuku looked at them, knowing that this must be about Bakugo for sure. He has already sent his next move by filing for a lawsuit against Bakugo alone at his time in UA, and that's not counting the incident in Aldera, to which he's ready to open the floodgate right now. They won't dare to sue the case. Being All Might is a respected hero in the eyes of the public, and none of the Class A had enough capital to take the case to court, so their only option is to buy his silence with legitimate money through a case settlement. Izuku scoffs, you can make it 2 billion for all I care. I'm not settling nor backing down, because I'm not letting Bakuga go for some chump change you offered. Chump change? That's a 200 million yen offer, Shoto replied, which I know I will get 20 times more had I kept the lawsuit against Bakugo and strangled him with a lifetime debt. Izuku said back, the reason why you came to me with this on the table is because Bakugo has been disowned and Katsumi came to plead you with this offer. Boy, look at me. Toshinori threatened. That's a fair offer. Take it if you know what's good for you. I came to you because I want to settle things peacefully, but if you're going to threaten me, then you better be ready with the consequences. Izuku dryly chuckled. The thing about giving ultimatums, Toshinori, is that you need to have the upper hand. And you don't. If you want to brush this thing under the rug, you wouldn't come with a settlement, but a pair of handcuffs, but you came with a flimsy piece of paper in your greasy sausage finger and a lot of zeros because you want to settle this matter quietly. Well, I don't. I'm planning on busting this whole thing wide open down to its throat that you'll choke to death. Izuku gets up from his seat and fixes his clothes. If you want me to drop this thing, then the answer is no. Then I'll come after your friends. Izuku stopped in his tracks as Tashinori just openly threatened him. That dreadlock girl in your class, young Kendo, those new friends in Class B, their time in this school will be long and hard because you disobey me until you surrender and sign this paper. Izuku turns his face to meet with his stepfather, and he glared at him. With his looks alone, he could tell that he is ready to hurt him, Tashinori. I don't respond to threats, I make them. So if you don't want me to take your kingdom apart brick by brick, you don't come to my face and send a threat that you can't deliver. Izuku turned the handle and slammed the door from outside, leaving the room after sending his words to them. Today is Saturday, and no class for today as the rest of the students of first year is busy preparing for their internship that's coming on Monday, 2 days from today. But while the others were busy preparing, the same can't be said of Izuku. He sat on the train, awaiting their arrival in the city. The landscape zoomed by them as the sun hid behind the overcast morning sky. Attention, all passengers. We have now arrived at Yatsukato City. Izuku stood and made his way to the exit door, walking his way down the streets of Yatsukato City, about 3 hours away from UA, as he had some business with someone in the city. He took a cab and gave the address to the cab driver as he drove to his destination. 10 minutes later, the cab stopped, and he got out and paid the driver before he drove off. He stared at the name plaque on the front house, looking at the bronze color plate with the name Tanaka. He knocked on the door 3 times, waiting for someone to answer, and a minute later, someone came and opened the door. It was a woman in his 40s, wearing an apron on her shirt showing that she was in mid of cooking. Ms. Tanaka? Izuku asked, confirming her name. Yes, she replied. Hi, I'm Izuku Midoriya. Izuku introduced himself. I think you remember me when I was your neighbor, when I was little. About 2 years old? My mom used to tell me that you were always babysitting me. Oh yeah, I remember. Her face gleamed, seeing her old neighbor, Aiza-chan, right? Yes, I remember. He lightly chuckled. Please, please, come in. She invited him to enter the house and take off his shoes. He then made his way into the living room and took his seat as she later came carrying 2 cups of tea in her hand and a jar of biscuits. I'm surprised that you came after so long. I miss you. You know, when I moved here, she poured his cup of tea at the table and served him. Yeah, I was just in the neighborhood and thought I would come by and pay a visit, he replied, taking the cups from her. You've grown quite big. I still remember when you were little and you were running around the house with that sister of yours. She mentioned remembering about the past. You look just like your father, you know, with that hair and those eyes. Thanks, that's exactly why I came by. Izuku lightly nudged the conversation to where he wanted. I actually wanted to talk about my father. Not my biological, but you know, the stepfather one. Oh, I don't know if I can tell you much. I mean, your father is kind of the reason why I'm here. Izuku, do you mind if I ask why? He asked, and judging by his facial expression, he could tell that it was an unwanted conversation, but he needed to know. To be perfectly honest, he scares me. Ms. Tanaka replied, gaining a raised brow from Izuku. Scares you? My stepfather? Izuku asked. You know that when you were born, your father wasn't around any longer. Said that he got caught in a car accident. The fireman came too late, and he was found in the car. And she gave birth as a widow while grieving about her late husband. Then your mother got married to that yellow-haired guy. I don't want to say it, but I think she needed someone to help you and your sister along the way. Need a father figure in your life? It was pretty soon after Hisashi's funeral, she mentioned about the part where he got remarried to Tashinori. At first, he's quite lovely, a polite gentleman, always greets me, who's his next-door neighbor, and then one day, out of nowhere, everything changed. He didn't greet me when he went out of the house. I thought that it was because of stress or something, but then he became easily enraged, sometimes greeting me with a cold shoulder, or when I accidentally sprayed water for my plant and it splashed his clothes just a bit, he's shouting in my face. Like some kind of madman. She covered her face while quietly shaking. Izuku sits in silence, paying attention to her story. You said you were scared of him. Why is that? He started acting strange. She told him, started spending all of his time in the backyard gardening, of all things. He never actually paid any attention to his backyard before. But he'd be out there, all covered in dirt, and surrounded by these huge bags of fertilizer and lye. I saw them remodeling the house before when your father was still alive, and he just tore it all up and planted a flower bed. And when I went out to the back once to talk to him from the fences, he screamed at me and said not to come near the garden, calling me names and everything. We always entered a fight at least 3 times a week. And my husband and I couldn't take it any longer before we moved here instead. And she couldn't continue and covered her face while sobbing, remembering it. I'm sorry. He held his hand over to his shoulder, feeling sympathy if you want to take a break. We had to pull out our savings and sell the house. And our daughter is still a child, and she has to move from her school at that time. She caught her breath, trying to gather her words, and took a sip of her cup. All I wanted was an explanation why he's acting like that so suddenly. She asked him, her eyes waters from her tears. He was a good man before, and then he turned into that nasty man, and all he just said that sometimes things happen that are just out of your control. Izuku placed his hand on her shoulder, showing his support, and let her cry before continuing her story. About 10 minutes later, she stops with her cry and heads back to the kitchen to get more tea for them. Izuku sits in silence, chewing over all the information that was being handed to him, showing a different side of Tashinori that he never knew about. Then she returned and got a fresh pot of tea and poured it into his empty cup, and he asked, switching to a different topic this time. And what about my father? The biological one, I meant. Izuku corrected and took a sip of his tea. What about him? He was caught in an accident. Says that he got caught in a crash, he mentioned, while joining his hands together. Oh, she remembered about that touchy subject. Yeah, that day was a complete mess for your mother. She got the report from the police that night. One of the neighbors saw her crying on the doorstep. I wanted to comfort her, but it was late at night, so I figured that I would come by tomorrow morning instead. But that night, my husband said that a black-colored car was parked right in front of the house. He had to go to the bathroom, so he saw it from the window, and 2 men were waiting on the doorstep, all dressed up in suits and wearing sunglasses. I figured that it was probably Hisashi's friend at the office or something, but then there's something weird happening that night. Something weird? Like an earthquake. I could tell since I was awake once again that night. Ms. Tanaka spoke, but when I woke up the next morning, there was no news of an earthquake on the television. And when I came to your house, your mother was acting all brave and quiet. Figured that she was trying to act strong, and I saw your stepfather in the house already, like he's been there quite a while. Izuku's hand starts to shake at the information, learning what happened to his father and mother before it all changed. Before the accident. Before he got remarried. Before the test came. Well, I should go. He gets up from his seat, taking his leave. I need to catch the train back home too before it's late. Oh, right. I forgot that you were living in the city now. Ms. Tanaka hurriedly replied, looking at the clock, that they had been talking for quite a while now. Thanks for the tea. I'll come back when I'm in the area. Maybe I'll bring some Kyoko when I come here. He made his way out the door, taking his leave. Oh, you're such a sweet kid. Safe trip. She waved her hand saying goodbye before he closed the door and made his way to the train station, heading back to Tokyo, to UA. It was finally the day of their internship, and all of the students were gathering at a train station. Their respective homeroom teacher was there to accompany them. Some of them have already left and headed to their station, and Class 1A is still there while being lectured by Aizawa. All right, you all have brought your suits and your train ticket. Now I don't want to hear any trouble coming from the hero that you're interning. Is that understood? Aizawa asked while glaring at his student. Yes, sir, all of them answered him. Good, now go to your station, and good luck with your internship. He spoke his final word before leaving. Wow, this is so exciting. We're finally going to train under a pro-hero agency. Mina said while she couldn't hide her excitement. I know, right? I can't wait to get there. Uraraka said, who's also agreeing with her. While her class is discussing their plan for an internship, Izumi waits on her platform all on her own. She decided to head toward her grandpa's house in Yamanashi Prefecture. Momo had decided to go to a different agency, which made her go alone, and she had already headed to the station before her. She had begun to distance herself from her class after the scandal with Bakugu, saying that she had enough with her class after seeing how they were not going to change their way about her brother, and for all she cared, they could screw their whole career if they wanted to. She was waiting at the platform for the train to arrive when someone came and stood right next to her. Thinking that it was Katsumi or Shoto, Izumi is more than ready to shout at either of them to leave when she turns her head and sees her brother instead. Izuku, what are you doing here? Huh? What does it look like? I'm having my internship as well. Izuku replied, It just so happened that this is my station as well. Oh, I just thought that I'm here to talk to you? No, I don't, he responds while waiting in silence, as the two of them aren't talking. Izumi also didn't know what to say since this was the first in a while that they were all together, just the two of them, ever since what happened. Izuku also knows that his sister and Yayorozu seemed to be distancing themselves from the class, seeing how she didn't talk to anyone at all. So, where are you going for your internship? Izumi asked, trying to break the silence. Izuku, who sees that she's trying to be civil about it, decided to comply, somewhere in Tokyo. I got an offer from David Shield branch office in Tokyo. David Shield? The famous David Shield, who lives in Island. Izumi looked in surprise, seeing how she recognized him from the news. Yeah, he offered me, so I decided to take it, he replied. Good, I'm glad you take it, she said before falling back to the silence once again, and she wants to talk about something else. Listen, if you're wondering if I had anything to do with my dad offering you the way out and that ton of cash, I don't, she answered. I just found out later on when Katsumi angrily marched her way into the class. So you didn't know? No. And truth be told, Katsumi and I haven't had much talk since the sports festival began. What? You had a falling out? He scoffed. Something like that. Izumi said, she found out that Momo and I aren't going to help them, and they saw the two of us as traitors or some sort for the class. And ever since that, I haven't talked about it. At least you did one smart thing. Cut them off from your life, Izuku replied. And that's what I want to talk to you about, Izumi asked, wanting to know about the answer to her question. Where does that leave us? Izumi had been wanting to ask that since the day after the sports festival ended, but the publicity of her brother and the whole fight in her house with her parent got her to stop, and she didn't have the time to ask about it. I know that we're not exactly siblings after the fallout, and I don't expect you to forgive me or anything, but I just want to know where I stand right now. Are we friends? Classmate? An acquaintance? Izuku, however, didn't give her the answer she was looking for as he just stood in silence after hearing her question. Soon his train arrived, and Izuku picked up his bag and walked onto the train, not giving her the answer to her question, and departed for his destination. Katsumi sulks at her desk at her home now, minding her own business, and not wanting to open her phone after hearing that the rest of the class were going to be headed to their internship, and she's not. After the class ended, she looked at the offering and found that it was filled with a bunch of nobodies from a third-rate agency. She clearly is pissed and marched over to Aizawa Sensei, asking for some recommendation after he announced that he's going to have a bunch of PF heroes that want to take them. But when he made the call, they all said the same thing. That no one wants to take her at all. The reason for it is that she shared the same name as her brother, as they all saw that there's no way that she didn't know or participate in her brother's action, and some were saying that it's true. The main thing is that every agency would reject the call in less than a minute after hearing the name Bakugu out of Aizawa's mouth. Having 0 offers, Katsumi decided not to participate in the internship this year and had planned to spend her day inside the room. But when she was coming home, it's only felt 100 times worse than the feeling of missing her internship. Ever since the news broke 2 weeks ago, her parents had refused so much as to look at her. She was so used to her mother's annoying screaming and her father's pathetic pearls of wisdom and pointless diatribes. But what she was not used to was the silence. Her mother had been completely silent inside the house. She could see that familiar spark of anger hidden below the surface, the shaking of her fists, and her clenched jaw. Her father is much worse, as he didn't even want to stay in the same room as her at all. Whenever she came to the kitchen or the living room, her father would leave in less than 2 seconds and not wanting to even look at her face at all, feeling disgusted. And to make matters worse, they didn't even want to pay a visit to her brother now that he was locked up in prison. She had told him about what happened and invited them to come to at least show their support and told him that he won't be there for long. But they simply rejected her idea. Flashback start. What do you mean you won't visit him? He's your son, damn it. Katsumi shouted at her parent after they said no to her idea of visiting her brother in Tartarus just a week after he was placed there. I meant what I said. I'm not paying that brat a visit. Mitsuki rejects. If you want to go, that's fine, but don't drag me or your father to go along. He's your son, damn it. No, he's not. Mitsuki shouts in exasperation. Her breath is heavy, and she pants, looking angrier than she has ever seen her before. I never raised my son to bullying people, let alone telling them to kill someone else. That boy is not my son. My son would never say those things in the first place. And the fact that he did proves that he never once think of the consequences of his action. Mom, I swear to God, this is your son we're talking about, my own brother. Katsumi rants, finding it hard for her parent to just leave him like that to rot. How can you just leave him there and not even bother to pay a visit? Masaru answered, because we already signed a disowning paper for him. Katsumi couldn't believe what just came out of her parents' mouths. A disowning paper? For her brother? What? Why? Mitsuki sighed in exhaustion. Look around, Katsumi. We have put everything we have into keeping our business afloat for as long as I can remember. We worked to the bone just to make sure you two have a life in the future. Well, now it's gone. Isizuku filed a case against our family, saying that he's suing us for what happened to your brother. Your brother is a minor in the eyes of the law, which means the fine is being paid by the family, which is us. The only way to make sure that we won't be dragged with him is by cutting him off, which is what we did a couple of days ago. So you're just going to give up? Not fighting about it? You'd rather we drop dead and just let him take all of our money? Katsumi asked. And what's your plan? Because right now, our company is on the verge of bankruptcy. We don't even have a source of income any longer, and that brat has never even loved us for even 1 second. And you expect us to pay for his mistake, which is going to cost us millions. Mitsuki yelled out, her face reddened from anger. He loves us, damn it. How can you say that to us? Katsumi replied with the same tone as her mom. Then you look me in the eye and answer me this question. Did you know about the things your brother pulled over this 10 years? She asked point blank in front of her daughter. Wait, what? Answer the question. Did you know about all of this and keep it away from us for 10 years? Mitsuki asked. Her eyes were serious with no signs of hesitation. Come clean right now, or I'll let you go and not give a minute's thought. Katsumi stayed silent and started to shake before she gave her answer. Yes. Flashback end. And once she confessed to it, everything has been falling down for her as well. Her parents have stopped talking to her, and they don't want anything to do with her whatsoever. They didn't cook for her, they didn't give her an allowance, and they didn't even care about her. Her parents have been doing everything in their power to ignore her. They left early in the morning and stayed out late. Honestly, she was starting to forget the last time she had even seen them in the room or even the house at all. She became the unwanted entity in the house that they couldn't get rid of. Feeling like she's not welcome in her own house, she decided to come and visit her brother instead, hoping to have someone to talk to. So, this was the end of part 5 of this series. Stay tuned for next part of this series, and if you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Until next time.